kind of a report card to say, this is what we did. We spent 67%, we said we're going to spend 66. So something that we give the residents the way accountability to council, to show you how we're doing on this. And then the third program, as you know, with this tax plan, it is a 2.25% income tax with a 75% credit. So for those individuals who work outside of Johnstown, which is the majority of our residents work outside of Johnstown, they would get a 75% credit for the taxes that they already pay. So for those who work in Columbus and pay 2.5 there, they would get a credit on that. But what this does is unfairly punish our citizens who work and live in the city of Johnstown. The 2020 census stated that there were only 200 and some odd people who worked and lived in the city of Johnstown. And 65% of those people made under $40,000 a year. Hitting them with an extra tax is a lot of money on $40,000 a year. If you make that much, or if you made that much in your past, a couple $100s is a lot of money. So Ms. Hollis and I discussed this. She came up with an idea that we need an economic assistance program for those residents. So council is looking at an economic assistance program for those that would be tied possibly to income or not income, that they could apply to get part of that money back. And that would require them to work and live in Johnstown for the next year. So that is something that council is looking at for our citizens that would be hit the hardest. So what are council's thoughts on these three items? Would you want us to move forward with trying to create a plan that we can vote on and approve?
Earlier when we discussed this in finance, we thought that Councilwoman Hollis had brought this up. I think it's a great idea, supportive of it on the third leg of this. We understand the concept of it all, and I call it the meat on the bone, but was there anything else that maybe that you wanted to add to it that maybe Donnie didn't get all the points that you may have made? Dave brought it up and asked, and I said I'd ask. Like, is
Well,
there?
it's your idea. I mean, you've talked me into a lot of things before, so.
I wouldn't admit that.
No, I think that, I just don't want to see our residents penalized for something that I would like to see the tax burden fall on the new businesses coming in. So I think if there's a way that we can structure this that will benefit the people that need it the most, that was our only goal, I think, in brainstorming
Yeah.
ideas. And I don't know that we're 100% there yet. We're getting closer to having,
But we want the city to know that, yes, it did fail last time. We want to give you the things that we didn't give you last time, and this is one of them, is how to help our citizens that are getting hit the hardest a break. So
Was there a dollar amount, Tiffany, that you had in mind, or
No,
a
I
range?
think I would like to look at some numbers to see what would be beneficial, for
Kind of find that sweet spot with it?
Yeah.
Okay.
an average.
Is that something you want finance committee to take a look at?
I mean, I'm happy to participate in that
Well,
too.
yeah, that's
but,
what,
yeah.
I would like for you to be involved, since
Yeah.
it was your good
Yes,
your
I
idea.
would like to be involved in that.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
yes.
so we do have an audience, and I want to take an opportunity. There's been a lot of discussion about the burden of the tax, and I think what council's trying to do is capture how it impacts people differently. And one of the ways that it impacts people in a positive way, it's hard to think of a tax increase happening in a positive light, but that's effectively what's happening. So I don't want you to walk out of the room saying there's going to be a tax increase and everyone's going to be walking away with less money in their pocket. Effectively, what council is doing is actually trying to save the residents of Johnstown money. You can have the tax increase, which is obviously the 2.25 from your recommendation, but the credit is something that's new that has not been in place recently, that most residents will be able to participate in and walk away with more money in their pocket. So as we highlight, obviously, the negative impacts it can have, there's also positive impacts that it can have. And it's my job to emphasize those positive impacts, that from the numbers, it will save 75 or have no impact on 75% of the population in Johnstown. So high probability that 75% of you in the room tonight will have a positive impact from what's theoretically a tax increase, but also have a tax credit. So
Because we all got hit with high property taxes this year. Everyone got nailed with it. So if there's a way we can help our residents decrease their tax burden while also trying to increase our tax revenue through the new businesses that are coming into Johnstown, if there's 400 acres that were annexed into the city of Johnstown, those construction workers, if they started working today, would be paying 1% to us. The construction workers across the street at Intel are paying over 2% to the city of New Albany. Why should Johnstown get less? We deserve we deserve the best. So if there's any way we can even that out, helping our residents at the same time, we've got to do something. Our roads are horrendous. It's like a third world country, some of these roads. So we've got to do better, and Johnstown deserves better. So, like I said, finance will have a couple recommendations on other items on the agenda tonight. Is there anything else that anyone wanted to speak about the tax and these ideas we're having to try to generate thoughts to the citizens to show them that we're looking at all different avenues?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
try to offer a summation of everything in a little more succinct way, I think connected one by one. The tax increase will have no impact or a reduced tax burden for people that work outside of the city of Columbus in a municipality that collects higher tax. They'll get that credit, so that's a plus. The city of Johnstown will be able to collect a higher tax rate from the new workers coming to town to construct the businesses, and ultimately any of the employees that work at those businesses down the road. I think it's important to mention that we are one of very few 1% cities, and I would say we are the only 1% city in the economic environment that we currently sit. So we will kind of get level with everyone else. The council, through finance, and I think some nodding heads here, but we will formalize it when we get to that point, is identifying what we're gonna spend that money on. It's not going into a black hole to be used for whatever. And to prove that out over time, we will have an annual accounting of what came in and what it was spent on. Is it gonna be perfect? No. Is it gonna be best use? Yes. Is it gonna fall 95 to 99% of the time into the buckets that were allocated? I would say yes. And then lastly, because it does impact people that work and live in Johnstown, especially those that has a higher impact as a percentage, not necessarily as a dollar of income, we're gonna look to find a way to provide economic assistance or whatever mechanism we can come up with legally to help offset those burdens, so that yet small group, still, part of our community, people of Johnstown, we want to try to make sure that we're doing everything we can to offset that burden as well. So there's a lot of effort going into finding a way to raise tax revenue without coming out of the pockets of the citizens, and that will continue. And if we don't get it right, we'll keep trying. So.
If you're retired, this does not touch your retirement income. This is only
Retirement
on
income. This is
earned
earned
income. If
income.
you are actually working a job, this is that. Jeff DeJeffson.
Nicely put, Councilman Orsini. When we say that buckets and percentage range, how would a citizen be sure words are one thing? How would what's that mechanism to ensure we do what we say?
That annual report, and then
Other than the annual report, legislatively, we would do it by resolution?
When we identify, we'd make a resolution and that's what was discussed in finance. We have a resolution saying this is what our intentions are. Now, that is as good as the people that are held to account, right? So if it doesn't go the way it's supposed to go, you voice your opinion with your vote.
So the resolution would bind us to spend the new dollar the way we say we're going to spend it,
Correct.
which is assurances to the public that we did what we said we would do with the money.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification. I was not sure.
So that was Finance Committee. Moving on to School District Liaison Committee. I know that there's some scheduling issues with this. Can we get this scheduled tonight or no?
I have to start over with the school board members.
Don't we have a meeting?
That's a different
Okay.
meeting.
I need to see what their availability is, so I think the last email I sent out was asking you all of the committee if there was any dates they preferred, but I've also asked Debbie if she's gonna get back to me on another.
Okay. So if we can get that scheduled as soon as possible then.
If you could get a couple of dates from them and then propose it to me, that might be
I'll
better.
make myself available if at all possible.
Yeah. I did ask her, so I'll.
You did, and I
I've
apologize.
asked her again. We're scrapping the old meeting.
It's-
'cause
yeah,
That's
coming
passed,
on.
right? Sorry. I'll shut up.
Moving to director reports, we received reports from the police chief and city manager. Does anyone have any questions or comments about the police chief's report? I did have one. You noted on your report about the stop sign issue. Can you explain how that arose so that citizens knows if they have, if citizens have an issue, that how they can address it with you and possibly what the fixes are?
That the selective traffic enforcement.
Yes.
I don't know that my mic's working, but ultimately, we received complaints in a subdivision. We kind of did a 1-week saturation of that subdivision where officers were provided a log. Stops were made, citations were issued, warnings were issued as well. We did over 35 hours in that subdivision for that 1 week. I provided the information to the HOA. Our officers attended that HOA meeting and handed out any flyers if they wanted to see the work that was completed and the citations or warnings that was issued.
So if a residents have an issue in their neighborhood, their street, they can always,
Yes, typically
Contact
this is where there are multiple issues that are arising or multiple complaints from residents within our community. Then this would be put together so that way we can do a saturation of that area. And every officer is supposed to do that per shift.
okay, perfect. Anybody else have questions for Chief Smart? Just so that our citizens know, Chief Smart was one of the few, how many?
There's probably less than 60.
Less than 60 police chiefs on the East Coast of the United States that was selected by the FBI to attend a conference in Miami, Florida. We're not sure how he was picked. FBI, local FBI here selected him. And so I think you're the only one in this whole region,
Correct.
Central Ohio.
There was 3 out of the state of Ohio.
So it's a very big thing that the FBI is recognizing what's going on here with Intel, the buildup, and brought him to this training. So I think it was great. Does anyone have any questions or comments for the city manager report
I
tonight?
had one for the chief, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
So you did the initial in Creekside. Will there be any follow-up or this saturation again at some randomness, or, it's like the Canadian geese, you can run them off, but they're probably gonna come back,
They're always come back.
right?
That's the thing.
Right?
So our officers are usually in this area because there are 2 specific stop signs that are, not everybody stops as they should.
Right.
Some don't stop. One individual, he went all the way through and stopped at the other stop sign on the other side of the road.
Yeah.
And it's only because he saw our officer in the area. Our officers, we do our best with what we can and what we have, and I wouldn't say that there's a specific follow-up to this, but the officers are in that area and they work enforcement in all subdivisions, not just this one. This one was a specific saturation of that area. It was supposed to be a roundabout of 1 hour per shift per officer.
Is there any other things that we can do other than having officer saturation that may deter? It's not going to fix. That may
Yes, I would
deter.
actually like some citizens to inform me of certain vehicles, and honestly, I'll go knock on their door and say, hey, you're kind of an issue in this area, you need to slow down.
Okay?
In this area, you need to drive speed limit in this area. I've already gotten a couple people in that residence, in that subdivision that have told me of a couple vehicles, and I would like to have a discussion with them. I just gotta find the vehicle now, or vehicles.
And I think one of the odd kind of pieces there in that 19 stops or citations and warnings, and I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, 0 were residents of that community.
I don't know that. I know
Okay.
that there was a lot that were not in the community itself.
Is there,
Or in that specific subdivision.
Yeah.
A lot of them were basically doing cut-throughs.
Yep.
would any kind, I mean, that's pretty wide going in from Khyber Run in through there to use as a cut through. Is there any other traffic calming do you think any traffic
Well,
calming,
we had our speed trailer there as well.
permanent
Permanent?
traffic
That's up
calming?
for the council. I know I've
Well,
gotten asked
that's what
about
I'm asking.
speed humps, speed bumps.
Speed bumps, bump outs.
I've been asked about that in that specific subdivision, and I've deferred that to the city manager and this council. If that's something that they wish to have in that subdivision, then
Do you think it would help?
I don't think that it would deter too much of our emergency services to have those in our subdivisions.
Say that one more time. It would not.
I don't think that it would slow us down to get to the calls.
That's one of the,
But
one
I
of the
think that there
issues.
would be an issue as far as like our service department.
That's one of the complaints of why we don't have them and why they don't recommend them is because of snow plows. Is
Snow
it,
plows and it slows the emergency service.
Jeff's asking if it's gonna fix the issue. Will
What
it-
I'm
will it
asking
fix
is,
the
will
non-stopping
it,
issue?
forget the service part of it. Will any kind of traffic calmings, bump outs, speed humps, and bump outs, that's a wide corridor through there. So it makes it
You
easy
have to
to
have very
speed.
close speed bumps or humps.
Do you think
Because what
it,
people are gonna do is they're gonna speed, once they get over the speed bump or hump, they're just gonna go faster, slow down, go faster, slow down.
do you think it would deter it's not gonna eliminate the cut through?
I can't answer that.
You got a lot of experience though, chief, do you think it will reduce the speeding, which is probably the biggest concern, and the running of stop signs through there? And
Not
your
stop signs.
Huh?
Not stop signs.
You don't think it'll help, it would? Would
Adding
it,
speed bumps or humps would not deter stop signs. It might deter cut through.
okay,
I think that this council might want to do like a traffic study as far as what would possibly be needed or what could be needed whenever other municipalities have put together speed bumps or humps in other municipalities. Was it a deterrent? Did it work? Was it beneficial to the community? Was it beneficial to the subdivisions?
is there anything that the police, I don't know if you guys, what you guys have, do you guys have anything kind of thing where you guys communicate with each other that you could say this works in this community, this doesn't work in this community?
No, sir.
Okay. Okay.
if we could get our income tax initiative passed, this certainly falls into several of the buckets of roads, sidewalks, when we talk about safety and service. From experience, I would say that the area, number one, needs a beautification because it transitions in between two different neighborhoods. Probably an afterthought that when both of them were getting developed should have been in the plan. That's too late now, but there could be, I think traffic calming done correctly with or without speed humps would make it safer. It's not going to eliminate cut-throughs, but it certainly would make it safer for the communities, both communities, because there is a lot of children in those areas, and they do walk, correct me if I'm wrong, Dave, in between the neighborhoods, because they're using everybody's sidewalk as kind of the loop, if you will. I've seen many parents with their children out there in strollers going back and forth through that neighborhood. Just saying, if we had the money,
Yep.
probably could make it safer for that many residents out there.
Any more questions for the chief?
And in your spare time, maybe you can figure out what that is, chief, between you and Jack.
Anybody have any questions for the city manager report?
Is there any particular highlights that you'd like to say publicly, Mr. Stannard, out of your report?
Cruise through really quickly.
I have a question, if you want me to go first.
Yeah.
For the OEPA, Licking County 2-8 negotiations, who was the mediator for that?
So that was Jamie Green.
Okay.
He was the, I say, principal at Planning Next. He initiated the, I don't say initiated, he was hired to do the framework plan through the TJ Evans Foundation
Okay.
for the large portion of the county.
Is there a chance to get him back, or is it just,
I believe over the last, 6 meetings that we had, 7 meetings that we had, kind of came to an impasse, so he didn't feel like he was making much progress. And I don't want to put words in Jamie's mouth. He did a tremendous job for the challenge that he was presented. And it was also being kind of spearheaded by the TJ Evans. I don't have that on direct information. That's more of a hypothesis. But that's probably on a pretty good hypothesis that they were kind of covering his wages to be there. So there is a finite amount of money in which they probably want to continue to have meetings where the ball doesn't seem to be moving any forward. So I did.
Who does attend those, the negotiations?
So it was just myself, Herb Kohler from Granville,
Okay.
city manager, and then Mayor Barnes with the city of Alexandria, and then Jamie Green. So I did bump into Jim Roberts.
and Jim Roberts, correct?
And Jim Roberts, yes, sorry, thank you. Jim Roberts the other week, and I said, hey, just because that initiative maybe has stopped, doesn't mean we can't potentially have further conversations. So we left the door open, or a window, or a screen door.
Would it be possible maybe to have Jamie Green come speak with us? Or is that not appropriate?
You know what, let me ask him, let me gain a little bit better understanding of what your goals and objectives you want to achieve from that, and that way he doesn't feel uncomfortable being on the spot in front of you all. So I think if I have a little bit more background, it may be helpful for the conversation.
Okay.
Okay.
Anybody else for Mr. Steinert? Do you have anything you'd like to highlight?
On the design review board, where it's going to be forwarded to council, the design review guidelines that we spoke about earlier with the young lady for the downtown. When should we expect that roughly?
So the last conversation I had with Chris, and I think it was some direction from council, is there was a heavy emphasis on getting the comprehensive plan across the finish line. Once that has achieved acceptance, resolution, whatever you want to call it, then I believe they'll get you a proposal. I think they're working on a proposal right now. So it could be next week, could be the week after, depending on if they need to pivot back to the comprehensive plan, make adjustments there, or if they're free of that, and they can fully move on and engage with the council and with you all in the discussion of the design review guidelines.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, thank you both for your reports. We're going to move forward to the council decision on zoning map amendment. This is relatively a new item for council that we haven't had in a few years. From hearing, listening to our attorney, what are the next steps in this process? Do we let both parties come up and speak again?
So, Mayor. There we go. Mayor Barnard, members of council, under your zoning map amendment process, you had your public hearing at your last meeting. And so it is now a matter for council to determine whether you wish to move forward adopting Planning and Zoning Commission's recommendation, modifying it, or departing from it. I know that there have been some discussions that perhaps the city manager or the applicant could speak to about resolving some of the unaddressed issues in this zoning amendment request. And council would also have the option to then table it so that those issues could be addressed in the meantime if you'd like.
Okay. So can we call the applicant up? Or do you want to explain what is going on?
I can give you background at the beginning if you prefer. So over the last 2 months with this process, I've had the ability to kind of observe the interaction from the citizens, as well as council, as well as the applicant, trying to creatively figure out a solution that I think highlights all of the items that are important to each party, knowing that probably not going to come to a solution to make everyone satisfied, but like I said, from the observation that I had last week with council, what I saw was an emphasis on the quality of the house that would be built there. What I also saw was a consistency from the residents that currently have built houses in that particular area, new houses, to not lose that new development that they currently have, and having a different product integrated into what they believe was their neighborhood. So looking to see how we can fold a neighborhood extension into theirs, came up with a concept that I had to run by legal counsel as well as the applicant, and that was the possibility to do that very thing and have those singular parcel, 3 parcel, 2 parcel, whatever it may be, whatever is the desire of council. Currently on the applicant's request is 3 parcels. Folding that 3 parcel into the Raccoon Creek Estates. Now, Raccoon Creek Estates does not exist just with zoning. It has some deed restrictions associated with that, as well as some HOA covenants. I'm not going to pretend to know all the legalities of that HOA and the covenants that exist there, but I do have some idea of the deed restrictions after pulling them up at the county, and it looked like it was hitting on a lot of the points that you all were referencing, as well as the applicant, as well as the surrounding neighbors of that particular area. So the idea is, if it's possible, if the applicant is willing to essentially become a part of that development, to where he would be held to the same standards that all of the other neighbors in that particular area were, determining lot size, that may be a bigger conversation, but if we can start there and say that's the main focus, lot size maybe isn't, then maybe that's an opportunity for the applicant and you all to find a common ground, and then you can move forward. If that is a desire from legal, I'll give Thad the quick heads up. From legal, the recommendation would be to table it to allow an applicant, if the applicant so desired to do that, the opportunity to fold those covenants in. If it's not, then you can act on that tonight as well. And have I misspoken in any way?
No, I think that sums it up.
Okay. That's the best summary I can give. I'm more than welcome to answer any questions from the communication that I've had, but probably be best to hear from Mr. Nybarger to see his thoughts on it. I just have email communications, and I don't want to put words in his mouth since he's right here. So,
Anyone have questions for Mr. Stannard before we go?
So if we table it, never mind.
Mr. Nyberg, would you like to come up? How are you today?
Good. I don't have a prepared speech. I will reaffirm everything you just heard.
So-
And, thought process is just falling in place, and it does express everything that Sean said is consistent with my thought processes and what I'm willing to do.
So you are willing to get deed restrictions to enter into the HOA of Raccoon Estates?
Yes. Sean referenced some emails, and I have emailed back and forth to Sean and Trevor. And council has been included in that, but council has yet to weigh in on the vehicle of how we might be adjoined to Raccoon Creek. Certainly agreeable to us, and the deed restrictions within Raccoon Creek are agreeable to us.
Okay. Does council have any questions for Mr. Nyberg?
just to hear, so you hear it out loud, I'm fine with it being tabled, and wow, that's being resolved.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
it was a question and a statement. The vehicle, I'm not a legal attorney that can handle these matters, so I defer to our legal staff as to how that transaction or contract is done. I can forward you what our legal counsel has given us. He pulled up a simple document. I believe Yaz had that. Is that,
Yeah, that was pulled from the recorded declaration of covenants,
okay?
which states how property can be added to the subdivision. Ultimately, we would need, and Mr. Nybarger would need to be in contact with the HOA and a representative of the HOA to get those documents completed.
So I want to explain to people who are here the understanding and the thought process, at least for my thought process, I'm not sure if the rest of the council. So the thought process here is if we continue to push this, we make them build to SR1 standard, which would only allow 2 houses in that area. If we did that, the houses may not be to the same quality as what yours are at this point. He's going to build them to a certain size, but he might not use the same standards. And in speaking to people who are more experts in this area, the lot size to realtors doesn't matter as much to the price value as it does the quality of the home. So in my outlook, if we put 2 homes there that are lesser quality, does it help your homes? I don't believe it does. If we put 3 houses there, which would relatively be the same frontage as Mr. Houston's lot, is that correct, Mr. Houston?
Sorry,
Your lot size frontage is 90-some feet?
no, it's over 100.
Okay.
Our 2 directly across from his frontage don't match at all with a lot of other.
Okay. So if we made the quality of the homes better in that standard by making him join your HOA and follow the same rules, to me, it's not a win for you, it's not a win for him. He's having to build a more expensive home, and it's going to have to live up to higher standards. We're not getting the 2 homes, we're getting 3. So that's my thought process, is it a win-win and lose-lose for everybody in this? So I don't know how else council is thinking on this issue.
Isn't that why we're tabling it?
Yes. Sorry.
Sorry.
The current environment's slowed the market down anyway, so I don't consider, at this point in time, if we're able to go next spring, I'm probably a happy camper.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure before we,
If residents would like to come up to speak? You don't have to give your address, if you can just give your name.
Okay, my name's Christine Parks. I live on Buena Vista. So I have a question because our homeowner association actually has not been, I don't know if fully developed is the right term, but has not been given to the homeowners yet. And all of our deed restrictions and everything, like when you submit your plan to the homeowners association, go through Mr. Nybarger. So I kind of think that's a conflict of interest.
Like the fox watching the hen house?
Yeah. And so who would ensure that those are being followed?
Would Mr. Nybarger be willing to give that to a mutually agreed upon party?
I don't need to be the arbiter of what I'm gonna build.
Right.
It's, there's, to me, the deed restrictions are pretty well outlined and, that affect the HOA. And, I'm happy to abide by them and submit plans to whomever wants to review them.
Okay.
I may even get help with my colors.
Mr. Mayor, can I ask?
Yes, go ahead.
So, to understand what
You weren't here this
said-
last week, sorry, yep.
I'm catching, I'm pretty current, but what you said was, so, John, you review the HOA submissions for,
I have in the past.
have in the past.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is that there would be a conflict of interest I would
Yes.
agree with. But it makes sense that that would be your role and responsibility based upon your experience as a home builder, right? You would be the best suited to do that. The simple correction would be is to have someone else
Sure.
temporarily or permanently fill that role. John does a lot of volunteering. So, and then that way you would have a neutral party. I think that would be, that's what I like about the feedback is that if you can come up with a solution.
Committee within.
If you guys can come up with a solution that makes sense, because as it sits now, it's 2 houses and a certain standard. I don't think that's what
No,
ever,
I thank you for that, for that modification. I think it's a win-win in some sense.
so yeah, if you all can come back with an agreement, bring it to zoning can make a recommendation how it fits into the whole community, which is primarily gonna be in your corner of your community, right? And then we'll be able to make a decision if we're agreeable to that as well, so long as we don't bake in an exception.
Mr. Orsini, I don't believe it would come back before zoning because it's currently here.
Okay.
It would be tabled here. It could not go back. My recommendation would be allow the residents. I was under the assumption the HOA was kind of functioning at this point. The property owners individually combined formed the HOA. If that transaction and that baton has not been handed off yet to them, maybe that is also done in the process, maybe it isn't, I don't know the legalities of it, but if they are agreeable to it, they are going to have to be agreeable to allow him to come in if they are in possession of the
I think
covenants.
all that's 100. My concern is that if there's an exception made, I want it to be a narrow scope. I don't want to set a precedence with, how this could be used in future situations that don't meet all the criteria that we're looking for. That's why I recommended going back to zoning, but I understand procedurally, it's here, it stays here. It gets rejected, it could potentially go back to zoning, but
Correct.
that's a lot of effort. As long as someone can say, this is a narrow scope for this unique situation, I'd be much more agreeable, because I always worry about setting precedences.
I did ask that question last time too, just to
I
clarify,
apologize.
no, you weren't here, so you wouldn't have known, but I did just want to clarify that too, that it's like if you apply for a variance, it's a one-off, so we're not setting a precedent. We wanted to make sure that we're clear about that.
Do you typically review the deed restrictions yourself, or do you sub that out?
When somebody contemplated purchasing a lot, they would submit their building plans. Their builder would, and themselves would submit their building plans and colors. And I just went down through to make sure that they fit the deed restrictions.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify if you're doing it yourself or if you send that to,
That's what
independent
happened
attorney.
in the past.
Okay.
That's not what
Okay.
has to happen here.
Yep.
I don't mind a third party doing that whatsoever.
Okay.
So it's cut and dry. I mean, it's
Yeah.
maybe a total of 40 points.
Is there another resident who'd like to speak? Yes, sir.
My name's Chad Neal. I'm on Raccoon Creek Estates. I just want to reiterate what I'd said the last time, that the issue is the density of the homes on the available land, and it should remain SR1 to match our zoning, which would be 2 lots to stay consistent.
Anyone else? Mr. Houston.
Usually come forward with lots of facts and figures and, of course, handouts.
You don't have any pretty pictures this time.
I don't have any handouts this time. Actually, I don't. Actually, all my prepared statements are back there. There's a saying in negotiations that if both parties aren't real happy at the end of it, you probably reach the optimal point of selling something or moving something, right? Both sides go, oh, I wish I could have done a little bit better, but I agreed to the deal there. But we've discussed that if it's 2 houses at SR1 zoning standards, you could have vinyl siding if you wanted. He could do anything he wanted in the elevation part of it, as compared to 3 houses that are built at the Raccoon Creek Deed Estates, which would be stucco or hardy board, which would be a minimum size of 2,500 square feet for a 2-story, 2,000 feet for a single story. And if the elevations met the standards, that would not negatively affect the remaining residents in Raccoon Creek, because really this will feel like a Raccoon Creek house. The frontage is Raccoon Creek, and so therefore it feels like our neighborhood. If it doesn't negatively affect our property value, it doesn't affect the neighborhood, the look and the feel, I don't have a problem with three houses or 3 lots at that position. How that, again, the mechanism, how that's guaranteed to be done would be really important. Whether or not all of his plans go through design review and he doesn't get approval until it clears that, I'd be fine with that. As long as he meets the deed restrictions of Raccoon Creek and builds a house similar product to ours, I really don't have much to say other than that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. So, Mr. Nyberger, there you are back there. You are willing to go ahead with the deed restrictions and get those deed restrictions in, correct? You can just say yes. Or no?
I am.
Okay.
But again, I don't, maybe I've been in the real estate business too long. I don't understand the legal vehicles to get there, but I'm
Right.
happy to go there.
Okay, that's perfect. So,
You need a motion to table it?
yes,
I'd like to motion,
Second.
That was fast. Jeff
At the
Barr.
applicant.
aye.
at the applicant's request. Is that your request that we table it?
Yes.
Okay.
At the applicant's request.
Second.
Jeff Barr.
Affirm.
Ryan Green.
Yes.
Tiffany Hollis.
Yes.
Mayor Barnard.
Yes.
Wes Cobble.
Yes.
J.C. Lynn.
Yes.
Al Orsini.
Yes.
Okay. Moving on to tabled legislation, Resolution 2024-14, a resolution to adopt the proposed comprehensive plan as presented, tabled April 4th, 2024. Is there a motion to remove this from the table?
So moved?
I'll second.
Al Orsini.
Yes.
Jeff Barr.
Yes.
Ryan Green.
Yes.
Tiffany Hollis.
Yes.
Mayor Barnard.
Yes.
Wes Cobble.
Yes.
J.C. Lynn.
Yes.
Okay, so this was tabled. It has been 4 months now that we got it back. It's been out for multiple reviews. Does anyone have any more changes they want to make before we move forward?
I have just a couple questions. And these could probably be done pretty easy. I know you guys probably hate me, but I'm gonna ask them anyway.
Nobody hates you, Brian.
I'm gonna ask them anyway. But just going through here, I know on our future land use, some of the sections that are in there, I don't know that we've hashed those out enough. I don't know that this group wants to hash those out a little bit more, or if we can clean that up as it goes through planning and zoning and design review. I definitely want to make sure that those documents match this document, however we end up. Because it's critical that they all match, at least especially when a potential developer is going to come in and say, you know, their first question is, what can I get away with? Setbacks, all those things, you know, in an area where they want to develop, I think it's key to have that all line up. First thing that I have is on page 23, where we have the existing land use. And this is just a question that I had as I went through this. I'm trying to get there on mine here. So some of that existing land use, my question was, what was the trigger to change that over? Because we do have some of it. I know that land comes in annexation wise as rural. The colors don't quite match up there either, was something else that I had on here. If you look at agricultural and things like that, you have in the PD district there especially, we all know what that's gonna be. But we still have it listed as the ag, so what is the
Trying to
catalyst?
catch up. I'm trying to find the
Yeah.
comp plan, the newest version.
Page 23. Yeah, and that was something else that I
This
noticed.
is it right here.
When I went online, we had 2.0 available on our website.
But Teresa sent out the most recent, didn't
We
she?
did,
The
we
most
did, but,
recent's in the packet.
and I didn't know if we'd have any public questions on that, but if we do have any public questions tonight and they're off on page numbers, that's why. Because 2.0 is available on our website. We
So-
got
It's
3.0.
been updated.
So to answer your
Mike-
question, I'm
Yep,
sorry.
go ahead, go ahead.
To answer your question on this, if you could scroll I'm sorry, Jeff, up. So this is current land use. So
Current land use, definitely ag. We all know what it's going to be. We've had meetings about it. I didn't know what the catalyst for change is. I know we're very close, and if we're creating this now.
if
we
you were
change it now.
to change existing land use on that particular, from agricultural to whether it be residential, mixed use, or employment center, as soon as the actual physical development took place and the use then started to happen, that's when that color would change.
Okay. Yep. All right, and then page, let's see here. I have 29 for the walkability, which I'm glad that walkability made it in there. That was a call out that I had earlier. It was in the previous comprehensive plan, so I wanted to carry that through because we have a very walkable city by Licking County standards, so I wanted to highlight that. The only question I had, a couple questions I had, are how did we arrive at this? Because you can see where the walking path goes through is listed as not such a walkable end of the city. So I wanted to know how we have a literal walking path that comes through there, but it's listed as not such a walkable part. And that's again on page 29.
Which part of it?
So you can see there with how the colors are. Pink is low walkability, yellow is medium walkability. Our walking path goes right through the middle of that section. How do we have a walking path and it's listed as low walkability?
Well, the path is just services that nearby area maybe, and not the collective whole.
Or is it the connection of other sidewalks to each other?
And that's what I'm wondering. I just want to make sure
It
that
is connected. There's easements from Concord
The
Crossing.
walking path's in the yellow.
yeah.
It doesn't go in the orange or red, whatever. I'm colorblind.
Yeah.
It's in the yellow area.
So I was just looking at some of the neighborhoods and things like that. They definitely connect into walking paths, and I just kind of wanted to see how that ended up there.
So I
But
finally.
we don't have.
If I had to extrapolate based upon what I'm reading here, because I see 90 to 170, 89%, I'm gonna guess,
How many people?
with no knowledge here, it's based upon total land area in the section and amount of walking paths and some formulation against the total land area.
I'm guessing it weighs heavily on sidewalk. But it's funny too that you have green spaces where the roads are, but it's inside of a low walkability area, like Leafydale.
But-
Leafydale's probably the most walkable neighborhood that we have, but it's in a low walkability area.
Is it connectivity to others?
That's what I'm wondering.
But
It's hard for us to
It
answer. I
states
wish
in
we
there,
had.
it states in there that the yellow sections, like areas along Route 37, indicate medium walkability, suggesting some walkable elements such as sidewalk access to amenities, but still necessitating, whatever that word is, the use of a car for longer distance or specific errands.
Here, ranking explained. Represent low walkability characterized by limited sidewalk, lack of pedestrian crossings, distant amenities,
Okay.
So we're
resulting in
that's
road
where it is.
segments that are less walkable.
Okay.
Yes, there's not amenities in that, in Concord.
So you have to get in your
It's
car if you want to go
residential.
get.
And there's definitely none in-
If you wanna get something to eat, yeah, right, so
School
you
or
think
whatever.
Grandview.
Medium
highly
walk,
walkable.
right, medium walkability, suggesting some walkable elements such as sidewalk access to amenities, but still necessitating the use of car for longer distances or specific angles.
Yeah, that'll be a big factor then. I just
Yeah.
wondered how they got to that because.
Yeah, it's explained there.
Right, feature,
Yeah.
green, featuring well-connected sidewalks, pedestrian-friendly infrastructure,
Okay.
rapid flashing beacons, wider sidewalks, amenities, and a variety of amenities within walking
Okay,
distance.
so that makes sense. The other thing that I saw in here on page 28, so it does say ranking explained, I guess.
That's
Yeah,
what I just
I read
read,
these
yes,
a
sir.
lot at 2 o'clock in the morning when I'm bored.
And on that little small print, how can
So
you see?
figure, yeah, and the print is helpful. Figure 8, it says here, and it talks about the walkability. On page 29, it says figure 6. So I just wanted to make sure our figures matched up. I know from version 2.0 to 3.0, there were some pages added, so I wanted to make sure our figures all match up in there.
You're seeing figure 8?
Figure 8,
Right there where it says ranking explained on page 28, it says figure 8, it picks the walkability score.
which is,
You get down to figure 8, which is down 33. And it is the growth framework map. So I just wanna make sure we get.
Should have been 5. I
That's
think,
easy
right?
housekeeping, though.
Yeah.
Don't hold this up over that. And then again, in the future land use section,
Page?
which starts down
What page?
36 is where it technically starts. And that's a whole section that goes down through there where you have planned neighborhood, and then you have employment, you have rural, you have suburban residential, you have village residential, commerce corridor, transitional corridor. That all ties in a lot with design review and zoning. So that was a section that, I mean, to go through that and figure out what you want your city to look like takes a lot of time. I pointed out previously, I don't have my notes on that today, I couldn't get them to pull up on this computer, but, and in some of those you have like suburban residential, which we have a suburban residential district, and it says a minimum of 7,500 square feet. That's a lot smaller than, that is an actual physical lot that is smaller than what we have in New Edition, or Creekside. Those are awfully small lots. So I want to make sure that you know exactly what you're getting when you look at those, and when you look at the coverage, setbacks, things like that. But my question for this, because we don't have to hash into that tonight and take another month onto this, but I just want to make sure that we're able to amend this as we go through. I know some of the guys on zoning and stuff looked at this too. It just didn't get changed.
If I could jump in, just to not to overcomplicate it, because it seems like we're getting into the weeds, and maybe it's not necessary. So comprehensive plan, 30,000-foot view. This is not code. If this were to go before a planning development board, you can't go from this for a zoning code. One of the key wording that you want to emphasize on these setbacks and everything else, development considerations. So if you look at page 38 or page 39, all of those associated districts with that future land use, it says development considerations, so they're not absolutes. In zoning code, you'll have the word shall, and so then it has to meet those. These are considerations, so there's probably a wide, I don't say wide because it's not terribly wide, but there's some flexibility to this. Thad, correct me if I'm going anywhere wrong on zoning legal ease here. Comprehensive plan is not zoning. You can't utilize it necessarily in zoning. The only time it's usually applicable is whenever you're looking at the future land use map and making considerations for what that parcel should be, and you can still gravitate outside the planetary realm of that, as we all saw on Monday night.
I get it, but I know people are gonna use this as a guiding document for the next several years, and if you're looking in here and you see square footage, if you're gonna put numbers in there, let's make sure the numbers are accurate, is my point.
So who owns this? Is it us? Is
It's
it
us.
We own this. Yeah. And if
So,
you
so
have,
to the point that it's a living, breathing
Yes.
document, who, maybe there's other things that tiny little errors, some way. If design review board sees them, they bring them to our attention, we edit this document?
You can make modifications to it. I mean, you can amend your comprehensive plan at any time, if you deem it necessary.
Maybe we do once a year. We say, okay, we've had these changes this year. We'll add this amendment to the back of it.
But who owns that of bringing it up to us? It's not gonna be me in the sense.
It's whoever finds it. I mean, it would be if planning and zoning does it.
Or design review, those
Yes.
board, those,
Or
It's
council
either gonna be-
makes changes.
I bet you money, realistically, it'll be a member of one of those boards that's very thorough and looks at every guiding document that we have.
Well, that's why we
Or it'll be
hire
a developer that says, now, wait a minute, comp plan says this, I just got to zoning, and it's a different story on what you want that neighborhood to look like, where you at. None of us will probably be here at that point, maybe, but, you don't know who's gonna be in the room at the time, so I'm just saying, if you're making a guiding document, try to get to match up.
Are those differences and variances found already in your notes? Because we've done the work already. Thank you, first off. But are those in your notes?
They'll be in zoning. Yeah, I mean, the current zoning.
The
code that we
notes
have.
that you can't pull up. That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, I had them in there. We went through them when we went through zoning. So some of this has been called out. I know one of the big ones that I can remember off the top of my head was Commerce Corridor. We have setbacks going 100 feet. But it also at one point called for on-street parking. Well, if you're gonna have on-street parking and then walk 100 feet to a building, where's your parking lot go? So just things like that with look and feel of the neighborhood. If we're gonna design a look and feel, I want it to be semi-close in this, is all I'm saying. But if you're open to edit it later, I'm good with that.
Okay.
There we go.
Because as a living, breathing document, trust me, because I've been through these before, you don't find all your errors till about 2 years later when you're trying to actually use the document to work with, and then you go, wait a minute.
Anybody else?
I do. It's not as complex as Ryan's. It says the name Intel 110 times in this, and while I appreciate the growth of Intel, it technically is in New Albany, not Johnstown, so I would like to see us refer to this as maybe like an economic growth zone, or just remove the name from what is happening, because it may not always be Intel. So that's just my opinion. I don't know if anyone else feels that way. But it is Johnstown's comprehensive plan, not New Albany's. So Intel is in New Albany city limits, not Johnstown.
No, you're exactly right, but Intel's the one that's facilitating the fact that we need.
Yeah,
we're
but we
making this
also
change.
have a lot of other companies coming, so don't know that it's necessarily fair to target one company for all of the growth. While they may be the reason these other companies are coming, it's just 110 times in a comprehensive plan that they're not in that city. It just seems, I don't know. If everyone else disagrees, that's fine. I'm going to voice it, because I
don't think it's hard to say economic climate, the current economic climate caused this, because you're right. It's gonna be Intel and 150 suppliers, what they told us originally. So,
I don't disagree, but it's gonna require a rewrite to make sure grammatically it comes out. You can't just pluck and drop, right?
I've never edited one of these, but I know you can click
Yeah.
the search button and get them all to pop
You can
up.
do that.
You can do that, but
grammatically it won't fall in line.
Yes, it might. You're going to have to change the grammar to it, because Intel's referring to one business, or if you're talking about economic development area, it's changing it from singular to plural. I learned something in English.
Well, page 9, to Tiffany's point, it's got its own right-hand column, if you will, spelled out, Intel and future growth. I'm with her as well, too, that
I just think that that's like the introduction to, I think that's like pretty quickly after the table of contents or something. So that's kind of our first page, and it's Intel, which.
But it is, devil's advocate here. I'm relatively indifferent. It is what it is, but this is the beast that's here. And I'm not saying Intel is a beast, right? I'm saying this is the reasoning behind this development plan. Without this plan, we probably would still be operating under the one that was written 7-8 years ago, right? Is that accurate?
Depending where we came in development-wise, who knows? That area was gonna develop regardless. Whether Intel did or somebody else, you have a freeway with multiple exits right there, half hour from downtown Columbus. It was gonna develop by somebody.
Is it really said Intel 110 times?
110 times.
The word Intel is in here 110 times. The word.
It bothers me.
But it's like the one here, housing costs in the planning area have increased dramatically over the course of the pandemic, but most notably following the Intel announcement. You can't change that to economic development announcement. It doesn't make sense. Because
What page is that on?
that's on page,
You can reword anything, but
Well, let's start with Intel
Yeah.
first word.
Page
Here.
12.
Let's rewrite it now.
so while some of it you could take Intel out, I don't think you could take Intel out of the whole thing.
good English major would be a couple hours.
Like many communities in central Ohio, I could wordsmith all this day long and come up with it.
Sounds like a volunteer.
No, it doesn't.
So
I'm
how,
just saying it's not difficult. I agree with Tiffany is that, you know, it's
but how do we get this moving?
forward.
We've had this here for 4 months, so how do we, that the next time we come here, we don't have another change that we have to send it back?
So we need to adopt it at some point as written, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, since we then own it, and if you will, the company that gave it to us, we're signing off that we accept your product and we're paying them for it.
Mm-hmm.
If there's a ad hoc committee of some way from council, led by maybe Ms. Hollis, and a design review board person and a planning and zoning person that came up with some suggestions, does the provider of the creator of this document, do they edit that for us for free? We gotta pay them, we gotta go in and edit it? I'm asking, I know it's getting into the
More
weeds a
billable
little
hours,
bit.
wouldn't it?
Huh?
If it's our document, I'm sure we could just go in and backspace, put in whatever you
Well,
want.
they're here, I'm kinda asking them too,
That
right?
is a good question though, because, okay, let's say we wanna edit this for any reason in 2 years. How do we do that, Sean?
Just do a, depends on the level of amendment. It's not uncommon to reevaluate your comprehensive plan over a 3 or 4 year, just do a quick assessment of it.
Well, let's say in 5-10 years, still a good plan, just needs a couple,
I
and
would
we don't
say-
wanna pay $200,000 for a new one?
I would recommend in 10 years, you do a new comprehensive plan.
Recommend
We give it
5
to
years.
Thad and he knocks it out on a weekend?
I think you'll get the product of which you pay for. I think if you try to tweak something that's 10 years old, you're gonna be trying to utilize a computer that's 10 years old and a lot's changed and it's gonna require an easier just to purchase a new one rather than to rewrite the old. It's,
I'm talking about kind of these small edits, wordsmithing, not necessarily graphics, maybe there's some color change, as Ryan pointed out, kind of thing. Is that something that MKSK, right? They do
Oh, in
this?
5 years, the maps will
No,
all
I'm-
be
I'm talking about in
obsolete.
5
Every
months.
map in there will be obsolete in 5 years.
If Tiffany was willing to spearhead this and, hey, instead of 110, we got it narrowed down to 60.
I'd be willing to do that. Yes.
The question I hear is that if we
Works
accept
really
it
fast
and approve
typer.
it, now any changes in the future become new billable hours? That's the question, and that would be for.
Or is
Oh,
the
for sure.
document simple enough that
Substantively, whether it says Intel or any other terminology, I don't think it impacts, or it doesn't change the impact it would have on anyone looking at it as what it is.
right?
A overlook of, you know, a guide to what we're looking for as you come to town.
Right. Awkward silence.
Is that what you're wanting to see? It just, it toned down as many times throughout the document? Is that what,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Overall, yes, I would like it to not be like the very first thing that we talk about in Johnstown's comprehensive plan, personally. I think that, our community also would probably echo that sentiment, but maybe not. I don't think that, and not to keep referring back to New Albany, but I believe that it's, the International Business Park is how they refer to it. Correct me if I'm wrong, is that what they're?
right.
But Intel's in the Johnstown Monroe School District. too,
Right.
So it's,
It does have an impact.
yeah.
Mhm.
It's part of the family, I guess, in a way.
And our comprehensive plan is looking at the Johnstown Monroe School District, not just the city of Johnstown. So, do we send it back to MKSK, have them make some edits?
I can tell them if they could go in and try to redo the Intel wording to replace that when it's not a geographical reference. I think that's gonna be difficult whenever, if it's a geographical reference, that's gonna be complicated. If it's a economic piece, that's gonna be still challenging, but I think it could be done.
I think there's the ability to lose some of the 110.
Sure.
I don't think there's the ability to go to zero, but
So from the Intel piece, yes. Some of the other ones, I think we covered those tonight. The walkability, define that. Figure 8, change that to figure 6. That's a great call out, and I think that can be passed with that amendment put in to the conversation. As far as future land use maps and the consistencies, I'll still lean on the fact that it's a 30,000-foot view. If they don't have exact synchronization, that's okay. There's probably some things in New Albany's comprehensive plan and really anybody's comprehensive plan that doesn't have complete synchronization. And over the years, you're gonna see that separation probably increase as the drafts start to kind of formulate through our new zoning code and things like that. And then that's why in 5 years, it kind of gets a reevaluation. So again, it's not zoning code. So aside from the Intel piece, I would say you're probably okay with moving forward. The Intel piece is gonna be complicated because I don't know what that's gonna look like.
okay, so how about we do this? And get council on board that there's nothing holding us back this time. We give it to MKSK, tell them we need to reduce the Intel footprint on this. And in 1 month, we come back here and we pass the sucker and get it done. So if in 2 weeks, MKSK sends it back to us, if anybody's got changes, you gotta put the changes in there and then.
I'm fine with whatever y'all want to do. I want you to be able to pass a comp plan that you're happy with and that, or at least the majority of you are happy with. So,
No, and I'm good with it, because I mean, I'd like to hash out the ideas here with you guys. Like, I understand the speed that the online component gives to you, but
I mean, but the point of the online component gets the little things that really don't need us to talk about, like figure 5, figure
Yep.
8, that can get knocked out. Little things like that can go in there and get fixed. Big concepts, yes. This Intel thing, that's a big concept that we need to discuss.
I'm good with what you just said about in a month, get it passed. Little small things are on us.
And
but-
if you,
Speak now or
Yeah,
hold your peace.
and if you don't come with if you don't acknowledge an error in there, we ain't listening to you. Unless it's something huge.
And ultimately, you could adopt it with, now, as you pointed out, the de-emphasis of Intel versus economic development more generally, that's more of a conceptual piece. But you could pass it and, provide staff the authority to go in and if there's a typo or if there's these sort of non-substantive types of edits, that could be done.
Appreciate that.
Because, it's a 220-page document. There's going to be little things.
Yeah.
But ultimately, where the rubber meets the road is when you're redoing your zoning code, when you're adopting design review board standards. I mean, I based on my experience, I expect that once those things are in place, your design review board is going to interact very little with this plan. It's going to be Planning and Zoning Commission when people are coming in and looking to put in new developments, new neighborhoods. So,
Okay. Okay, everybody good with that? 1 month?
Yep.
Okay. Speak now or forever hold your peace.
Motion to table.
second.
All in favor of tabling?
Aye.
No one opposed?
Okay, moving forward to ordinance 13-2024, which was tabled. Is the applicant ready to remove this from the table?
Yes.
Okay. Ordinance 13-2024, an ordinance to declare the improvement to certain parcels of real property to be a public purpose, exempt 100% of that improvement from real property taxation, require the owners of those parcels to make service payments in lieu of taxes, provide for the distribution of the applicable portion of those service payments to the Johnstown Monroe Local School District and the Career and Technology Education Centers of Licking County, establish a municipal public improvement tax increment equivalent fund for the deposit of the remainder of those service payments, specify public infrastructure improvements that directly benefit those parcels, and to declare an emergency, tabled June 4th, 2024. Okay, would you like to come up?
Is there a motion to take this from the table?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I made a motion to, and I read it. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, are all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. The council tabled this ordinance at its last meeting to allow time for the full 14-day public notice, notice to the vocational school district to get delivered and take effect. This version of the ordinance contains all of the recommendations that were made by your council after review, and so we're here to request that it be passed this evening so that we've laid the foundation for TIF financing in connection with the 385-acre area.
Okay. Does council have any questions for him? We've discussed this, I think, 2 sessions already. This will be the 3rd session. Last session, it was just a technicality that we found that it was just short, so. What are council's thoughts on this ordinance 13-2024? Any questions or comments? Does the public have any questions or comments on this one? Hearing none, what is the will of council with ordinance 13-2024? I'm not reading it again.
That's a long one.
It's like a Pearl Jam title. Do we have a motion?
Is the motion to pass as written?
If that's your motion,
I'm asking the question,
yes.
right? That's
Yes.
all that needs to be said?
Yes. I'll make a motion to pass as written.
I'll second.
All right. Mayor Barnard,
Yes.
Wes Cobble,
Yes.
Dave Seeland,
Yes.
Al Orsini,
Yes.
Jeff Barr,
Affirm.
Ryan Green,
Yes.
Tiffany Hollis.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, sir.
You, just a reminder to the members of council, as we've described at past meetings, this sets the foundation for the TIF.
Resolution 2024-24, a resolution accepting annexation of 4 acres more or less from Monroe Township, Licking County to the city of Johnstown. Mr. Stainer, do you want to explain this, or New Albany Company here to explain this?
Oh, I'm gonna defer to them and make them work for their money.
Mr. McNally?
We've had this in front of us before already, right?
This is a different,
Jamie McNally with the Johnstown Land Company. This is almost identical to last session's annexation. If you look, this is what we describe as the missing teeth along Clover Valley, the 4 acres that would, the goal is to have this absorbed in, added to sub-area 1. And if you look at the map, it kind of just rounds out the site. And this would be a part of an economic development project. This acreage that would become part of sub-area 1 would be part of the common ownership, part of the same program, and with the same end user as well.
What's sub-area 1 again, please?
Sub-area 1 is zoned for industrial and data centers.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
So it's true, intent with sub-area 1 is to be a true economic driver for the city.
and how many acres does this get us up to now?
So sub-area 1, if we add the 4 acres, I believe we're at 184 acres.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can pass it tonight.
Does
No,
Ms.
sorry, 187 total.
Disappointed in you?
I know, sorry.
Does anyone have any questions or comments about resolution 2024-24? Again, it's just rounding out that area. Does anyone, citizens here tonight, would like to speak on this item? Hearing none, what is the will of council for resolution 2024-24?
You need a motion to pass as read, correct?
Yes.
I'll make that motion. Move this along.
I'll second.
Oh, now you want to jump all down.
Thanks, Jeff.
Jeff Barr,
Affirm.
Ryan Green,
Yes.
Tiffany Hollis.
Yes.
Mayor Barnard,
Yes.
Chris Noble,
Yes.
Dave Seeland.
Yes.
Al Orsini.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Resolution 2024-25, a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into contracts with New Day Farms LLC for the sale of water and the treatment of wastewater. This is a resolution that's recommended by Finance 3-0. This is a contract update. I'll try to put it in layman's terms before Sean
Nope, you're
says it
good.
even more. We had agreements with New Day Farm for both sewer and water. Our water still had about 10 years on the contract. The rate that we were paying for water was very, very low. The contract, or the amount of money that we would bring in under the contract, the way it was written, would bring in about $500,000 a year. With the changes to this contract, it opens up the water contract in 2 years versus 10 years, so we can renegotiate the water rate. It would bring in $836,000 yearly instead of $528,000. So this is new agreements with them, higher rates. It's just an overall better deal. Sean, would you like to add anything?
No, not unless there's questions.
It's great for us, it's bad for them. We heard it earlier, somebody said it's, you know, if it's bad for both, it's probably a good deal. Is there any kind of a downside to this deal, if you will, potentially now or in the future, in any way?
Well, I think one of the bad things, not necessarily a bad thing, but you could look at it as bad. I think our revenue from New Day will probably go down in the future as they look at new ways to spread
The sewer?
the sewer. They're looking at spreading it on the field. But while that might bring in less revenue from them, it opens up our capability to bring in more sewer from these other sources that are going to be coming online. So while we may be losing revenue from them in the future after these 2 years, it's going to enable us to have more capability.
Understood.
Is that?
No, I'll rephrase Mr. Houston's, if everybody walks away unhappy, it's a win. I think this may be an actual win-win for both them and for us. The initial proposal was significantly higher, 25% higher than the increase that they're having. So that ideally would have been better for us financially. But knowing that the water piece is important to us, we were able to come down off of our initial price. Before, we didn't have a capacity issue. Now there could be the potential that we have a capacity issue. So having that capacity back normally wouldn't be a good thing because you don't have a user. Now having that capacity back because of all the growth and things, if that were to happen, that's okay. So if you take all the elements that are incorporated with the conversation, I think it really hits where they need to be at, it hits where we want to be at, and just because of the environment of us maybe needing some of that capacity back, which isn't normal, helps for them as well, so.
My only question in this, the last deal that we worked, it was a longer term. Inflation caught up with us in that one because we had a fixed amount. This one's also a fixed amount.
It is, there is an increase for the second year, I believe, at 3%.
Okay.
Yep.
I mean, I'm willing to roll the dice in 2 years. I don't foresee anything, but who knows anymore? If the cost of doing business goes up, that's the only thing I worry about is the price staying the same does hurt us. It's only for 2 years though.
Yes.
I have one question, and forgive me, I forgot to ask in finance. So the initial cost to get the line to New Day, has that been covered in part, whole? I don't know, and we have a line, so there's value to it, but what percentage of that cost, because that is gonna be one of the short in that contract, which was probably built out in some degree to cover some of that cost or a major portion of it. And I know it's a question from the left field, so.
You're
No, that's a
good.
good question. I had that same question too. Yeah.
I might be ready for you. All right, so they will continue to pay that. while the contract is in place. If the contract were to be terminated, I do believe that that would evaporate. So you're gonna be out some revenue locked in. Let me find this here. It was something I considered. Your payments for the first, I believe, 8 years were 64,000 annually. After that, it went to 45. So we're 5 years in, so we've received 64 for 5. We're gonna receive another 2, so you're at 6. Let me find the contract real quickly. It's probably in my packet instead of trying to find it online, it might be quicker.
We're guaranteed 109 over the next 2 years.
You have some vulnerability. However, the additional revenue over the next 2 years of the 600,000 would, I think, at least net you an even, or if not more, than what you would have received had you
Had you
not
ran the
renewed.
contract out.
Correct.
We're gonna be made more whole than we probably would have been, but I agree with you.
I agree with that, but I just.
I agree with you though, I mean, I would like to say, historically that we broke even at least on that deal, didn't lose money.
I don't know if we'd ever broke even on that deal,
Yeah,
if we'd have kept it.
it's just something to think about going forward when we make those kind of deals.
Oh, yes.
All right, so I knew I went over this in my own mind, but it's been a couple weeks since I covered that specific piece. A lot of it revolved around rates. So, page 4, item 5, additionally, the customer shall pay the city an annual water access fee in the amount of equal to 64,000 per year falling within the period of January 2021 through December. So it looks like, and I'm not an attorney, but it looks like they would still be obligated for this particular portion of the contract. So even if the contract were to, the service provision were to end, and here it does have some wording in it that would, I believe, allow us to continue to collect that payment.
Okay.
That's gonna probably be settled by attorneys if things were to dissolve.
Okay. Any other questions, council? Any questions from the public? Since this came from finance, I make a motion that we pass resolution 2024-25 as written.
Second.
Mayor Barnard.
Yes.
Wes Cobble.
Yes.
Dave Seeland.
Yes.
Al Barsini.
Yes.
Jeff Barr.
Yes.
Ryan Green.
Yes.
Tiffany Hollis.
Yes.
Okay, another one coming from finance, resolution 2024-26, a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with EMH&T for a JAG water and sewer master plan proposal. Mr. Stainer, I'll let you explain this.
All right. So, as we've discussed in the past, and I will try to be as brief as possible, there's really 3 segments that are happening right now as they're related to water and sewer. We have the NPDS permit for the Southwest Licking Water and Sewer Plant over in St. Albans Township. That's on July 16th. Probably more in line with the conversation with this resolution is a master plan. So there's also the 208 conversation. 208, think of it, that's the sewer bucket. The 15 county water regional study, that's the water bucket. So you got the 208 thing going on, that's relative to the sewer. And you have the other piece that's water. They do interconnect because obviously water and sewer, but the 208 has to do with distinct boundaries. Water, a little bit more of the Wild Wild West, you can run that anywhere. However, the 15 county study for Licking County is gonna be done, I believe, in October is their target date. We're at the front of the line. They wanna get ours done quickly. Not sure that that's necessary. We're gonna continue to have that conversation with Ohio EPA. We're gonna emphasize the fact that maybe these deadlines, why is there this arbitrary deadline? Why is it being pushed so fast if it sacrifices quality? We're all for efficiencies, but we're also wanting a quality. So with that said, we have been given a proposal from EMH&T to do a master plan. The reason that master plan is important is Southwest Licking has a master plan. If we're going to be a serious contender in the conversation of the pieces, but we need to have an engineer verify these things, MKSK planners, do land use modeling, verify these things, and actually put some of these conceptual things that we've talked about in the past on the paper. Without that proposal, I very much doubt that Ohio EPA or anybody else is going to take you seriously. So realizing that we need this for the 15 county study in order for our efforts to be taken seriously as an alternative. And then also for the 208 conversation, which I would anticipate they're probably going to time these somewhat together towards the end of the year. Also for the 208 conversation, this also needs to be a document that we can present that's been qualified and not just like, again, lip service. So open up for questions. That's the summary of it. Hopefully I didn't skip anything.
So it was discussed in finance, this contract to create this plan proposal is $120-some thousand. We are looking at splitting this at some way with Granville. We do not think that Alexandria is going to contribute. We are going to hope they contribute, but we're not counting on it. I think Bob said it best. We don't really like this, but this is eating our broccoli. It's best for us to do this.
My analogies are way better than that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Bob does better.
Okay, the broccoli was mine. So we're authorizing Sean to do, finance authorized Sean 60%.
So the question comes down to, this is the next step in the initiative, and the initiative sure wraps around water and sewer, but the intent is to control economic development in and around our city. I mean, that's why we want it, right? We're not looking to turn it into a funding mechanism for something else. So the tolerance is, the question is, what's our tolerance individually and collectively to spend money to further that end? And the total bill is gonna be around, I think, 124-ish. I think we will probably have a partner or two along the way. But if controlling or having a major controlling factor in the economic development around our community means something, this is where you say, well, at this stage, how much does it mean? Do we want to authorize Sean to fund up to 50, 60, 70, 100%? Just let him go out and cut the deal. Do we want to limit him? Do we want to say, go cut a deal to this level, we'll bring it back to us for final approval? That's really what it falls down to. That's the crux of the matter. Is do you want to continue in this effort? Because without this step, I think Sean said it pretty succinctly, it kind of goes away. We won't be considered serious. It makes sense. You got to have documentation to back up your plans and have something that people can point to for details. So that's it. It's 124,000. I'm motivated to protect Johnstown through this controlling of resources. Just depends on where everyone's at as far as what they willing to put up. My question is, do we have it in any of the budgets? And what's that look like?
I should have covered that, and I apologize. Yes, always the question is where is the money going to come from? So I want to link this with the other initiative that we have going on right now. So right now, just for general public information, I'm sure you all are aware. If not, we're looking at building a water and sewer plant. Also in conjunction with that, we're looking at maintaining our water and sewer plant. So we have aging infrastructure, not just the pipes in the ground, but also the plants themselves. Quite extensive as far as age on some of those pieces of equipment that needs to be replaced, whether we have development coming or not. So with that said, we're going to look at expanding our plants. When we're looking at that, we want to make sure that we're modeling our land use areas appropriately. So how big a plant do we need to build? How small of a plant do we need to build? When and what time do we need to build that plant? When do we expect economic development to be a driver? When do we expect housing development to be a driver? And this isn't just in Johnstown. This could be a consideration for St. Albans, Granville, all of the entities in the partnership. So in order to really make good sense of what we're trying to work through as far as sewer plant expansion, water plant expansion, you need this guiding document. And the point of that conversation is you have an enterprise fund that you don't use except for infrastructure improvements. You're not supposed to. You don't use it for operation. typically don't use it for debt unless you're doing an expansion and you need it to cover the balance until that plant can potentially take care of itself from a debt repayment situation. And that's a whole nother animal. We'll go through that in finance here in a couple weeks. Dave in there as well.
But only future improvements that deal with water and sewer, not future improvements for
Correct.
road and
This
anything
is,
else.
and that's an enterprise fund, so this only comes from your enterprise fund. And these monies are in there right now for this very purpose of increasing capacity. So this initiative is taking place to increase potentially the capacity. And you want to make sure you study that to make sure you get it right. Another piece of that I want to throw in there, it's going to be easier if I bring it up now. You're not only paying a consultant for this particular initiative, but as identified in our budget, we have legal fees that have been set aside for this particular initiative. Those legal fees have been coming out of the operating. There may be, if you desire, the need for some of those legal fees to start coming out of these capital improvement capital improvement or capacity fee initiative. If we can get into that further, if you have further questions, I'm more than welcome to talk about that. I think that's pretty defendable, given the fact that those monies are set aside for future plant expansions. We would not be engaging with an attorney if we weren't doing. I don't like to get into that particular revenue, because I like to keep it there, but this is part of the process. I'm usually really fiscally conservative on these things, but there is an opportunity there, and Dave, you can jump in at any time. I feel pretty confident that there's enough revenue out of that fund to take care of all this.
So what finance suggested and made the recommendation is that Sean can enter in this contract to pay up to 60%. If it has to go above that, if New Albany or Granville doesn't want to work with us and pay that much, then he has to come back to council.
Can I ask a question?
Mm-hmm.
Are we jumping the gun on this? I mean, I guess, what does the impact of the hearing on July 16th, is that gonna have any bearing on
Great
how we
question.
move forward with?
So that's the MPDS permit for St. Albans Township. I'm sorry, for the plant in St.
For
Albans
the,
Township.
at Moots Run, right?
Yep. So that's a proposal being put forward by Southwest Licking. We believe we have concerns with that MPDS permit. That has some bearing on what we're doing here, but not really. I want to say these things nicely because I'm not trying to poke at anyone, because there's a lot of sensitivity that revolves around this. And I'm not trying to inflame either party. I still would love the opportunity to see how we could partner up with, or at least coexist with Southwest Licking. Like I said, trying to walk very sensitively into this. We are going to bring up our concerns with the application that's there. We don't need this proposal to do that. This proposal really speaks to the.
Well, for one, that ruling, does that have an impact on on JAG? And then also the 208 decision, is that at any point, is JAG null and void? Does the EPA's ruling on any of that ever?
So.
And
No.
I'm just asking.
No, it's great questions. So for JAG to be null and void, Granville, Johnstown, and Alexandria would have to dissolve, which we're not going
Right.
anywhere. So our collaboration there is always ongoing, and I'll give you an example. So Granville supplies Alexandria with water. That's been happening for the last 50 years. Think of it this way: this is just an amplifier of something that already exists. In Madison County, they've started this process as well, to where they have these interconnects between these communities. It's been successful in some respects. So JAG is a representation of each community. This MPDS permit really is, if it got denied, they could reapply. So it's not gonna stop anything. It could slow things down. But if they wanted to reapply the next day, they could go ahead and reapply the next day. That's why it's important for us to have our homework done to say, look, we have an alternative here for you to consider. And that's part of the NPDS permit. When you, man, Steve is way better at explaining these things, but I'll dive into it. So NPDS is really just looking at stream degradation. It's an environmental piece. And so I don't want to talk too much out of school, so we can have a committee or a work session on this, and I can bring kind of Steve in, so we can walk through the legalese of it, because I don't want to misspeak, especially if we're broadcasting.
So this is needed for planning purposes for the second two pieces, the 208 and the 15 county thing. Also. Okay.
How long does it take them to put something like this together? Do they give you
That's a
idea?
great question. If you ask Mike Keller, he is sweating right now because of all the work that we are putting him through in really, really short order just to get some document drop, which is going to be about a 22-page document drop to the Ohio EPA and Hazen and Sawyer, who are doing the 15-county study, by Friday. We had him start that task 3 weeks ago. So a 22-page document in 3 weeks with the amount of data and information that they got on it, it's a hell of a task. On top of that, we're going to continue to give them dumps as we start to get more information. I would say a final product, I would like to see a final product, or at least close to a final product, within the next 3 months. And I think it's going to be needed in 3 months as they start to work through all their processes.
But there's a lot of this that's already done, correct?
We had a lot of this data here, there. So, I mean, I had data, they had data. We've had things over the last year. We just needed to compile it all. And so we're taking Mid-Ohio Regional Planning Commission's numbers rather than some of the township numbers as part of our initiative. We're taking some of LCAT's numbers. So we're trying to compile all the conversations that we've had, compress them into a document, and then present that. So I would say 3 weeks. I can get, or I'm sorry, 3 months. I can get you a firm number on that.
Okay, any other questions for council?
Yeah, just one jump. What number would you like to have to go have a discussion with Granville as a percentage of the whole?
I think 60% is a good starting point, and leave it at that. Find out where they're at with it. I'd love to have Alexandria, and we talked about this in Finance Committee a little bit. Alexandria obviously has budgetary constraints, but I think it is helpful if they contribute some level of participation, only because it has more of a messaging piece to it than a financial piece. Your money usually is a driver of your emotional attachment. So if you're willing to spend some type of money on it, it means that they're vested. So that's a story we can tell, that there's collaboration there, not just on paper, but there's a little bit of price. And what may be insignificant in others' eyes may be substantially significant in theirs. So if they were able to do a $10,000 contribution, that's a big lift for them, potentially. They might be able to do a 30 or 40, I don't know. But you know, if they're able to do a 5,000 in the grand scheme of things, I think it speaks from their emotional side. So.
Anybody else?
So we had a presentation on this in finance today. I want to hear from the guys on finance. I didn't make that part of the finance meeting, unfortunately, but I wanted to hear your guys' thoughts on it, apprehensions, anything that you think, since you've got to look at it a little bit longer.
So our discussion relayed a lot around some of the things that were brought up.
Okay.
Timing came up, is the timing critical? Which I think Sean addressed. Yes, time for about 3 months. Will some of these decisions that are out there impact it? At any point will we have wasted money, right? Is something gonna come from the state or the EPA that says, this is the way it is, and our efforts up to that point are burnt? Sean gave every indication that that's not the case, just as he relayed here. We talked a little about participation, about, which I mentioned, the economic protection that it affords us, and that was, we talked a little about numbers. Sean brought up a great point, like to see Alexandria participate at some point, just so that they have some financial, monetary contribution, because it indicates support, right? That's the
Yeah.
easiest way to indicate support. But that was it. We covered pretty much all of it right here again.
Okay. So since we started on this last fall, kind of going down this road, what deliverables do we have from that date that we can show for this? So we have Granville involved, we have Alexandria semi-involved. They didn't go with our potential purchase of their sewer plant. Do we have any townships buying into this or anything yet?
We have school district participation as well.
School district participation, okay.
Northridge and Johnstown and Granville schools, correct?
Northridge has not signed on to the MOU yet. Johnstown has, and then Granville, they felt more comfortable with a letter. Which their letter was actually about, if you read it, it definitely has a clear verbiage to it. So I would say the fact that they didn't sign the MOU at that particular time, I think a lot of it was timing. If you read their letter, it doesn't de-emphasize any of their commitment. So they're pretty well locked in. Northridge, we hope to continue to give them information. I have not had an opportunity to get before the Northridge School District Board. I know Mayor Barnes has. They have a lot of questions. Their superintendent, I think, is rather new. But this is a whole new beast for someone that's never dealt with this particular facet of development. I mean, you think of a superintendent of a school district, they deal with administrative pieces. This is something completely outside the realm in which they do. So we may be able to get Northridge there. I can tell you at least Alexandria is there, which is a part of Northridge's school district. St. Owens Township, no sign off. We're not getting any signing commitments yet from the townships. I don't know that you need them a part of the MOU. We'd love to have them a part of the MOU, but obviously there's a annexation consideration. To answer some of that, St. Albans Township, they actually may be doing a merger. So that annexation conversation may happen by itself with that particular item. Monroe Township, you all have been a part of the conversations just as much as I have. Liberty Township, they have sent an email to the Ohio EPA as well as us. They don't want anyone to be a provider for their specific area. So option A, B, and C is penciled in. So right now, the county commissioners are their designated management agency. They are not in District 9, so they're not under Southwest Licking. However, at any point in time, their area could be given away just like District 9 was. So they are, I would say, more understanding of our initiative. I think we represent constituents in their area. They feel like they're a part of Johnstown. So I get their apprehension, though. They don't want to do anything that's going to hurt their ability to protect themselves. So.
Have the county commissioners expressed any support at all, or like either way?
So we went to the county commissioners, gosh, probably 3 months ago, just to make sure we weren't wasting our time.
Mhm.
We presented our proposal. We said, is this something you're going to shut down, or is this something that at least you're open to? And this was at a county commissioner meeting. They said, we are open to it. We said, okay. So we just want to make sure we're not wasting our time going through the process. So they said, we want to continue to learn about what exactly you're doing. So this is the next step. If we're going to have a presentation for them and a master plan, you got to have a master plan. They were asking a lot of questions. How would we intend to service the area? Is your school district on board with it? So all good questions from the county commissioners. So.
And what about the state level? Is there any signaling from the state if they would be in support of?
From like a state representative or a?
Just in general.
So Claggett is currently a representative. Kevin Miller will then be our representative. We've had conversations with Representative Miller. They went well. A lot of them are open to the idea. They're obviously trying to be objective and look at all things. They want to make sure that this is a big decision. They want to make sure that they get it right. We've communicated to Tim Schaefer. He seems to be open to the idea. He went through the, what was it, Pickerington situation whenever that whole process unfolded. So he understands
Because ultimately, wouldn't some of the funding have to come from grants or, different state funding options?
For,
Southwest Licking, they would have to get money from grants and stuff.
my personal opinion, I feel like they would need to get funding, in the form of a grant. That's just an opinion. They may be able to say, we can take out a loan and we can do this initiative and repay the principal and the interest on that loan. I would say in order to be as aggressive as they want to be for their particular initiative, I think the cost coming in for the plant in St. Albans Township, just for the plant itself, is $100 million. And then for the infrastructure to get it to the first development that they have on the books would be around another 45 or 50 million. So $150 million worth of investment for a 300 gallon per day commitment, maybe 400 gallon per day commitment. That's a tough mathematical equation to work out. So without some type of grant funding, I would say it would be challenging, but they may be able to have enough users on the backside of their current existing customers to where they could absorb it, or increase the rates of their current customers to be able to pay for new debt that they then take on. So for us, we have said this, we don't believe that we would need state funding. Typically, capital improvement projects should be self-sustaining. It's not like a roadway. It's not a toll road, so that's been a positive on our side of the ledger, I think, whenever we're having these conversations is, we'll take your money, don't get me wrong. But it's not necessary in order for our initiative to take place. We believe we can do this without having to take taxpayer money in the form of a grant.
Sean, so in your scenario, Southwest Licking's plan, or the other provider's plan, would that be a motivator to grow exponentially and rapidly to recover costs?
I love how you just led that. That was beautifully orchestrated.
I'm just, and anyone that would support that model would, ex facto, support rapid growth and expansion in and around where the water plant is, right? Because that would be the most cost-effective way. So, which would essentially be rapid growth and expansion east of town,
You're hitting the nail on the head.
running at us quickly.
That is our general thought.
To the standards that exist, as far as zoning and codes that exist in those areas, which are mostly township, which don't have the most developed codes, which certainly don't match the codes and expectations of Johnston as they stand today. All this could be changed, but
Correct.
the likelihood of that is, I just want to make sure we understand that the connection there is the support for that is essentially support of rapid expansion and growth outside of Johnstown that, as it stands today, would not necessarily be aligned with our vision.
More debt you incur, more customers you need to bring online in order to pay the debt. If you can incur less debt and still grow at a reasonable rate, gives you a heck of a lot more leverage whenever you're having discussions to whether you have to get more money in or whether you want to.
Need drives action.
Yep. So I think we want to be in a situation where we want a particular development and don't have to have or need a particular development.
Intentional, intelligent, impactful growth.
Exactly.
That's what we want. Not, we got bills to pay. Who's gonna connect our water pipe?
Well, the more we extend ourselves into a situation where we're creating new plants, running water pipes, things like that, and that seems to be what happens to everybody who tries to build their water and sewer division, is they have to continue growth to be able to fund it on some level. Whether it's us, Columbus, Delco, all of them.
Yeah,
They all have
yes and no. It's about rate, scale. So you are going to pay a premium by developing slower because you're going to have to build and then expand or build again versus building large and taking advantage of the economies of scale. Building a big one and then work your way down. There will be some additional costs there, but I think in the end you'll have a better product that's more representative of the community, because we're not talking months, we're talking
Years.
decade jumps,
Yeah.
right? So between now and 30 years from now, the community will be able to represent what their expectations are then as well by that slower, more managed growth than, here's what it is. And this is gonna have to last for 100 years, or buckle up, this is gonna hurt.
If it works out that way. I mean, we don't exactly know what's coming at us. 5 years ago, I was told these farmers will never sell.
Well, yeah.
When we did the last comp plan, it was, don't worry too much about that future expansion because these farmers will never sell.
What are the, I'm not trying to be facetious here, but what are the reservations you're seeing that I'm not grasping?
I'm just saying we've been at this for a couple months. I thought that it would have grown by now, more people building on. Regionally, that seems to be the case, though. I mean, the other players in the region, they're not exactly gaining traction either. Like, I mean, it would be in the newspaper if anybody was doing anything major. Seems like somebody wants a regional plan of all the players involved together. I mean, I don't see the state or the feds coming in to hand money to one group or another. So I'm just wondering if we're moving quickly at this, when there could be more conversations and planning to happen that don't require all of this money. I don't know what our running tally is currently. But it doesn't seem like anybody's really gaining a lot of traction in this region to outpace us.
That's fair.
Or outpace anybody else. I don't know what our running tally is in a year where we're asking for more money, and what it'll gain us. If we continue to spend money on this, do we have these negotiations that we could have had for free anyway and that we've been having for a while?
It's hard to validate a negative, right? What of our efforts at this point prevented from happening? That's an impossible argument that I could have. I can't tell you that it has, some things have already been done already. But I think your point's valid. What are we spending, and what's the cost benefit analysis of it? And I'm always going to lean into anything we can do on the front end. Now it's prevention is worth pounding.
I think the evidence that something is happening is the fact that Southwest Licking is having to move much slower than they originally had wanted. They're not moving as fast as they wanted to because they realize that there are decisions being made now that may affect them. They can't. They thought all this land was going to be theirs. They're realizing now that the EPA is re-looking at this. I mean, the EPA didn't have to re-look at this. They could have just said, okay, we're keeping it what the county commissioner said, but the EPA is deciding they want to look at this to make sure what the county commissioner said was the right decision. And this report here is going to help the evidence to show that we should be the ones taking care of this area, not any other organization. We're not asking to take care of, we're asking to take, ours as we're wanting Monroe Township. We should be responsible for Monroe Township. And hopefully when the EPA sees this report, they're gonna say, okay, this makes sense. Why would we let some organization that's gonna have to travel miles and miles and miles of line service Monroe Township when you've got an organization right there that can do it cheaper and closer? But we can say that to their face by just saying words, but until we put it in a report, show them this is our plan, it's getting nowhere. So we have to get that plan. Yeah, I mean, number one, the current state is they take care of District 9, so they take care of the unincorporated territories there. So anything we annex right away, we don't have to worry about other people getting involved in. I've heard conflicting reports of how far the other water entities are from getting into our sphere here. It's not just Southwest Licking, it's Delco, Columbus.
Well, Columbus has got a narrow shoot, I suppose, if they wanted to shoot that. They got to go uphill. Things get expensive.
And water's really not the driving factor for development.
Yeah, sewer.
It's sewer.
Yeah.
And that 208 line is going to be what makes that.
Is there any scenario where we maintain control of Monroe Township without JAG? Or if, let's say, there was like some miracle happened and we got like control of all of Monroe Township, but JAG was not, and it was just the city of Johnstown, is that possible? Is it possible for us to do that without Alexandria and Granville?
So you're saying go it alone?
I'm just asking, and I'm not saying that's the best. Just curious if that's,
I
At
can
some
give you-
point, we limit out
Well,
in our
I
development.
can answer, just know that, I mean, it's a public, I would recommend that if you guys want to speak strategically about your water and sewer, if that is a desire for you to have, it may be better to have it in a committee meeting, not trying to be non-transparent, but some of these things you're talking about are economic drivers. Some of these things are legal pieces.
I'm okay with waiting on an answer
Some of them have to
then.
do with the acquisition of property as well, so they might be,
Right.
depending on how far it might be executive session type of discussion.
So that's where I'm going. Just know that anything that I give you information wise up here is probably gonna be looked at and listened to tomorrow, from many opposing people. Ryan had mentioned, is there some other organization that's going to take up this role to defend our area? If they haven't stepped up yet. I would welcome those entities, but I don't see anybody stepping up to facilitate and put a master plan together. I think you're gonna have to go it alone in a way with JAG. From the legalese perspective, I'll try to answer Tiffany's question, but I won't go too far into it. Southwest Licking has the authority to provide to provide sewer in Monroe Township. We have no authority to do that, only through annexation. So if you're a developer and you can develop in Monroe Township or Johnstown, and you can get sewer from either entity, there's no motivator for you to annex. So I don't know how you could get just Monroe Township without going through the 208 initiative. You need that line to change. You could try to annex, which is a possibility, because we're maybe closer in proximity. But if Southwest Licking were to line, then they can be an alternative option. But then are you annexing so that you can get your water and sewer rights, or are you annexing because it's a good development? And there's those conversations as well, so. I know it's tough to talk about, but I'm trying to answer questions
I
without.
know. You're good.
Sean, when is Granville and Alexandria wanting to hear from us about this?
I would imagine that we just got this proposal last week.
They're meeting with their council tonight, aren't they?
I think they meet on
Wednesday.
nights. So I would imagine Herb is gonna walk this through his council. Mayor Barnes is probably gonna share the same proposal, as it was all given to them last week. So I would imagine whenever they have their council meetings, committee meetings, they're gonna have the same conversation that we're having tonight, so. If you guys wanna have like a work session to kinda go through these, I'm more than willing to do that. It is a lot of information. It's very complex. Whatever you wanna do as far as desires, I'm more than willing to help give you information. I just wanna make sure we do it in the right setting, in the right framework, and in the right legalese.
So, to get back onto the resolution 2024-26, it's to allow Sean to at least negotiate and enter a contract with EMH&T to do this. Does anyone else have any more questions on this that they would like answered?
What's our running tally on this? If you want to ballpark it,
I'd
if we
have
get to a certain area, we're about committed on this maybe too. I don't know.
I think that's where we already are.
Just no legal fees?
Yeah.
I'd have to defer to Dave. I don't know. I can tell you it's significant. And if you want to pull back on it anytime, that's fine. I've stated it in the past and I'll state it now. If you don't carry this weight, then you are allowing, then don't worry about hiring a planner.
So, just so I'm clear, so we're talking 60% of the coverage of the proposal, right? with the.
We can determine
giving-
that. We
Yeah.
can determine
It- it-
Authorization.
Yep. Money's coming out of enterprise, right?
It's not taxpayer money.
That money already exists. That money is then spent to further expand and develop and or build infrastructure, meaning, then take word infrastructure out of there, plants and additional facilities for the Johnstown water plant, whether it's Johnstown or JAG, right? Okay.
Well, wait, hold on. This money is only going for the planning or the engineering plan, correct?
So this
This
is
is only for the
proposal.
For the proposal.
proposal for the EMH.
For the master plan.
Yep.
For the master, yeah, for the master plan. It's not taxpayer money, but it is our water fees that people in the city pay. Yes.
But if we were to grow at all.
The ability to increase.
If we were to grow at all, that money would be coming out of enterprise anyway. So if we have no plans to grow our existing water infrastructure, right? The plant, anything like that? If we have no plans to grow, then we don't need this, right? But we have plans to grow, right?
Yep.
Is that a yes?
100%. Yeah, we're obviously gonna grow.
Okay. So that master plan is a necessity, right? This is,
Think of it this way, you have the hard cost, which is the physical infrastructure. So those are, pipes and plants. Enterprise can be utilized for that, but you also have soft costs associated with it. Engineering, planning, land use modeling. So this is a piece of that planning, and this is a piece of that plant capacity and enlargement. I think you should consider it in that mindset that this is all relative with the enterprise fund. This is not necessarily coming out of operating. This is the capacity fees that you collect whenever somebody ties in to give you additional capacity, and you're assessing what should that capacity be? What are those interconnects? I'll give you I think a safe example where I'm looking at it from your role in your seat, and I've sat in it, so that's why I'm trying to do this in a way that doesn't also relinquish too much strategically, but I think this is safe to say. So when we're looking at this and the interconnect and the possibilities that exist with JAG, right now we're looking at building 500,000 plant expansion or 2 million plant expansion. We're looking at the cost. What do those costs look like? All of them are high. Let's say you go too big, and then you've got too much debt, and you didn't bring on enough users. The reverse of that is you go too small, and then you miss opportunity. There is some potential here with JAG that exists, that an interconnect with Granville allows us to tap into 1 million gallons of capacity. Our current plant is at 1 million gallons. They have 1 million gallons of capacity. So in the interim, if I were to need additional capacity, let's say we go just a shade too small, or we go the right size, but then a great economic development opportunity comes our way. And we say, oh crap, we didn't build our plant big enough. What can we do? Well, because we have this partnership through JAG, we call up our friends at Granville. We say, hey, we hear you got really good water down there. Herb says it tastes great because he joked about this. He says, we sell really good water. I'm like, we got pretty good water up here too, but we're willing to buy some water from you in the interim while we get another plant expansion happening up here. And then, once we get our plant online, they can take the capacity back. They already have a plant. So it's not that they're adding additional debt to their particular system. And that's the nimbleness that we're talking about as it relates to Newark, if we were to get an interconnect there. And it's easier to say these things, but then what is an interconnect? What does that cost? I can tell you a line from here to Alexandria costs you $6 million. To build a sewer plant costs you $43 million. Maybe it's cheaper to do a $6 million connect with Granville if you need it, rather than do an additional $20 million worth of infrastructure. So there are some opportunities in cost savings. So when you're talking to the public about this, you're trying to be good stewards of their revenue. If you build this thing too big and you got a 3 million gallon plant and you got $80 million worth of debt coverage that you got to have, and you don't have any customers coming online, they're going to have to carry that load. So for me, this is actually a more feasible, economical way of planning and doing things and being mindful of not putting yourselves into too much debt, relying on your neighbor to go borrow a cup of sugar. and then repaying them whenever they need a dozen eggs for Johnny's birthday party. That's the old school mentality that I think we're trying to bring back into the cooperation that happens here. So, sorry to use
I'll
this.
look at this.
If it
way.
works that way, or you get the sweet deal like New Day Farm got, and then on the second go around, you don't.
I don't follow.
So we get a good water rate in the beginning, and then they eventually get tired of, losing capacity, and then the second time we need money, or the second time we need water, the price gets more and more expensive.
We would build our own plant. It would give us additional time.
So either way, we're building our own plant with this.
So I look at it this way. I'm willing to spend 60% of my money to save the future of Johnstown and what could be built outside of it and the education my kids are going to get and if they're going to be educated in trailers versus an air-conditioned school building. To me, it's a no-brainer. I'm going to do everything I can to not allow Southwest Licking into Monroe Township.
Our number one goal, I think, in all this to keep in mind is that I think everybody here will say it. We want to look after the school district, and we want to have an identity. I mean, I think that's everybody's on that same page.
Yep.
But if we're able to get a deal done with Monroe Township that gives us time to do this stuff at an acceptable,
But we can't
and
make a
easier
deal
rate,
with, we legally cannot provide sewer to Monroe Township just by them saying we can. That is a two-way line.
in all these negotiations that's happened with everybody we're talking to,
We can't redraw the two-way line.
That
That's
deal never came up.
No, the county commissioners have already passed that agreement that allows, that gives the coverage map to Southwest Licking. There would be no incentive for Southwest Licking to come off of that.
If you're gonna stay away from in all the other areas, or something like that, whatever they want, whatever their end goal is, like our goal is the school district in Johnstown. So if that's just Monroe Township, we can't get that somehow.
So for that contract to be revoked, it would require both parties to agree, as written in the contract. So what you're alluding to would be that there would be a new contract that would become effective when the previous contract was dissolved, that would be mutually beneficial to Southwest Licking to allow them to, or to motivate them to void the first contract or.
Saying it lets us operate at a pace that we can digest.
I don't know.
There's a lot of money out in
they're open to that.
any of the scenarios that I've heard tonight. There's a lot of
If
money
they
out.
were open to that, that was my theoretical question.
If they
Like,
were
if they
open to
were open to that, is JAG still relevant?
Is who opened the door? I'm sorry.
If Southwest Licking is willing to say, hey, we'll cancel this contract, we'll give you Monroe Township, is JAG still needed then?
I'm gonna say for the reasons that Sean said, there's still benefit there. Because
Right.
of the ability
The backup,
to share
yeah.
burden, share load, and build it at an economically beneficial pace.
Yeah. I see what you're
Could
saying.
Johnstown go to loan at that point? Maybe.
It doesn't obligate us to as
But
much.
it does give you
as
access to
fast.
more
But the
water.
The cost
Yes.
to build that, so if we just assume, okay, now we gotta provide water to Monroe Township, to build the facilities to manage that or produce that much capacity as a loan repayment, maybe not, but as a total net bill, I think it would be more expensive.
But then you would exceed your 60% because Granville wouldn't be part of that discussion in the
Uh,
first place, right?
I don't see, at this point, there's no reason not to partner with them. I mean, we're talking short-term, long-term, and I mean, because if you can get connectivity into Newark, you're talking about generations. It becomes
I
a
guess
water.
that is
Newark
exactly
was
what
brought
I
up
was
at the
trying to
beginning,
get
but
to.
we haven't done anything yet with Newark, have we?
How do you mean by done anything?
So Newark was brought up as a potential option.
There's been
in the
conversations
beginning,
with Newark,
but have
hasn't
we had any meaningful that was my first question is,
As a
who have we had
connector,
meaningful
is that-
conversation and buy-in on this? Because
Yeah, we've had conversation with Newark. We had a meeting with them a month ago with our initiative and just talked in general. And there's a lot of politics that involved. And when you're asking people to take sides in a county that it's obviously an adversarial situation, but Newark's response has always been, we want the best for Licking County and we're willing to help out if it's right for Newark. So good conversations.
I guess, Bob, to your point, that's exactly what I was trying to get to, is so even if Southwest Licking said like, hey, you guys get Monroe Township, we still need JAG.
JAG is still advantageous
Yes,
to Johnstown.
so regardless of however that
need and
happens,
best
but-
choice aren't necessarily the same thing, right?
Yes.
But I think it is advantageous for us to build out JAG under any circumstance.
No matter what, yeah, so that is
Well,
what I was
that's my
trying to get
read.
to.
And this is where I think we're getting dangerous, but are you all fine with Monroe Township, even though a considerable amount of your school district exists outside of Monroe Township?
We got Jersey.
You got Jersey.
We even got some
St. Albans.
Delaware, right? In Delaware County.
You got 28 houses in
So I know you guys
I
keep
mean, I think
mentioning
like that's
Monroe.
not necessarily like, I'm
Monroe's
just
the-
using it as a
Monroe's
hypothetical.
No, well, the only
Monroe's
reason I
the
bring
bulk
it
of
up.
it, and you'd think that'd be the easiest deal to work
Yeah.
since that's where the city is.
Yeah, but how close does St. Albans Township come to the east side of town?
Well, they don't even know what they're doing yet. They may be Alexandria in November. I mean,
I think all these conversations are good to have, but as it lies today, I'm comfortable. I don't want to cut conversation short, but I'm comfortable moving, making a motion and taking a vote on it.
That's 60%, right?
I think there's more regional conversation that could be had that
So are you making a
doesn't
motion?
obligate us to more money.
No, I'm trying to be mindful of the rest
I'm
of the
open to
council.
that. I'm just throwing it out there. If you believe that there's a regional, I'm gonna get in trouble. If you believe there's a regional conversation out there that hasn't already happened, I welcome it. Because this stuff has been taking my time for the last year, and I'm getting direction from council to do this for the school district and for the protection of council. And it is burying me extensively. If you believe that there's another initiative, bring that person to the podium next freaking week, and I would love to listen to them.
Mr.
And I'm
Mayor.
sorry, but I'm
Oh,
just.
point of order. I'm gonna call vote. I make a motion to pass resolution 2024-26 to authorize the city manager to contract with the MH&T for JAG, for JAG Water Sewer Master Plan, not to exceed $74,400, which is 60% of the contract as presented, for final approval to be done by this body.
Second.
Bob Orsini,
Yes.
Jeff Parr,
Yes.
Ryan Green,
No.
Tiffany Hollis,
No.
Mayor Barnard,
Yes.
Wes Coble,
Yes.
Dave Seeland.
Yes.
Okay, moving on to introduction of legislation. Ordinance 16-2024, an ordinance to amend sections 1187-08, 1187-09 of the City of Johnstown Codified Ordinances. This deals with the demolition of houses, which I believe you guys have been dealing with
Yes, I
on
like
zoning.
I like this one.
Okay, since it's dealing with zoning, I'll let
You're
you
gonna see
speak.
me be real positive in a hurry. So we've been asking for this on zoning. Sean can tell you when he gets back. We did have a demolition that came to zoning. It went through the ringer. They automatically, or well, not automatically, but they ended up going through it. They've also had some that went to design review. We don't have a real consistent strategy for demolitions currently that gives us what we're looking for. So taking cues from some others in the region that have done a solid job for demolitions, I think this gets us to where we want to be. And I think this is a process both of those boards would be happy with. It'll add more oversight. It'll ensure that there is a future thought of in demolitions. It'll ensure that they're properties that, you know, for whatever reason have fallen into real disrepair, not intended disrepair. And it'll give us a solid background to take a look at buildings that want to come down.
Sean, would you like to add anything to that?
No, I got some help from Andrew Hale, incorporated some of his documentation that he sent over, so I appreciate his help with that. There was some that I had to leave off, more of a processes kind of thing, and then also incorporated some of MKSK's pieces to this as well, from Chris Herman. They do some of these things in Worthington. Other than that, getting this back to the design review board. I think it was the original intent, whenever they passed 1187. So that is part of this process, and then giving some guidelines that they can follow instead of the 3 provisions that were laid out is gonna give them a lot more ability to critique the decision, whatever they're looking at tearing down a potential structure.
So is this to make it harder for demolition or easier?
I would say it could go either way. If it's the right fit, follow the criteria. Shouldn't be an issue. I think it gives the ability for the city to insulate itself from bad actors that are going to take advantage of your current code to get structures removed. This gives you more provisions in place for consideration. Right now, you only have 3 considerations that are viable.
They're very light.
Yeah.
This gives much more of a framework for any board made up of any people of any profession to look at. So I think it will help in that demolition process.
And so then the decisions to approve or deny demolitions is then lays in the hands of the design review board?
Yeah, this would take it to a design review board.
Okay.
Which honestly, I think, based on the intended makeup of that board that we've historically had, I think you're gonna find professionals there that deal with this sort of project more frequently than you may find in some of our other panels.
Okay. Any questions by council for this one?
One question, does this have the appropriate teeth that would need to be enforceable? Does it roll, the design review board roll up through zoning? My concern is, the design review board have the ability to not legislate, but make determinations at this level as it sits?
So a COA is a certificate of appropriateness, and in their guidelines for major change, it has demolition of a structure. So prior to the demolition of any structure, think of it as an architectural change. This is a
Yes,
pretty-
I mean, it's just because it's so
pretty significant
I mean,
architectural
you're not
change.
changing it, you're essentially, you are changing it, to remove it is the change, so.
And that's why it falls into their camp. From a visualization, a built environment, this is really gonna impact that. So they still have the zoning entitlements that are allowed to be on that property, if it's GCC 1 or residential, but this really speaks to the architectural, the design, whether you're removing that, whether you're removing half of it, whether you're removing the carriage house in the back.
To sum it up, this doesn't put us in a situation where we'd have legal challenges.
No, not that I'm aware of.
To the contrary, I would say that adding these criteria would help in the event of legal challenge. So if somebody were denied a demolition, their avenue would be to file an administrative appeal of that. And by having these criteria, as opposed to what you currently have, where it talks just about, you know, historic or architectural significance, that's pretty objective. But when you get into talking about whether there's economic use of the structure, that can get a little bit grayer under your current criteria. So these additional ones, I think, provide more opportunities for the board to create a good record that is defensible.
Any more questions for council? Any questions from our public? What is the will of council on this item?
Make a motion to pass it.
Oh,
It's an ordinance. This is just.
Oh, sorry.
First reading.
I messed up.
First reading, never mind.
Okay, it was just first reading.
I was gonna say, I was gonna make that.
We're gonna get
I will
feedback
second
from,
your motion when it's time.
we're gonna get feedback from design review board. I'm gonna have Teresa send this out to design review board and planning so that they can, over the next 2 weeks, make any comments that they feel may be helpful.
Okay. We'll move to other business quick. We do not have enough people who can do the parade. Having 2 people on the float really doesn't look good for city council, so.
Who is it, just me and you?
I'm going to be out because my daughter has a softball tournament that day.
I got a track meet for the 8-year-old.
Oh,
So,
all right.
You can drive a motorcycle.
You can drive the truck?
Motorcycle.
No,
I'll sit in the cycle.
I'll go see if Miss Firecracker needs help. Emma's in that. Or softball. She had 2 options. Whoever she wants to ride with.
She not doing, is their team doing a trailer?
I don't think they ever decided. Softball might have one. I don't know.
We're waiting to
figure it
find
out.
out.
You can
when-
drive my team and truck and my truck.
I had requests, being a guy who knows how to drive a truck and trailer every day. I had numerous people asking how.
I could possibly do it, I just don't know yet, and I don't want to commit with not knowing. And anyone interested in doing walking audits? It was put in the comp plan. That's where we just walk through the city of Johnstown and note things and just take a state of the city, doing a walking audit.
With who?
Just us. We can invite people to come with us. Just
Oh, this is not a request from MKSK to do a walking audit with him.
no, it's just council to just walk around town, note things that we see, so we understand things better.
So in that world, they call it rounding.
Rounding.
Rounding. An audit is CPA world. In the world that I'm in, facilities management, grounds, et cetera, we call it.
I promise I won't hold your hand either.
That's right.
We'll just walk
We call it
and.
rounding.
Yeah,
Okay.
I start sweating.
I would-
audit.
Throughout town, is it just, are
We-
we targeting certain?
What I
areas?
thought is we could pick a part of town, walk it, like one day, it might take an hour, walk it, talk about different structures there, different sidewalk, the roads, so we understand every part, and then maybe in a month, we do a different part of town.
I like it.
You drive my truck with
You
my-
can be like, if I had money, I'd fix that. If I had money, I'd fix that.
Right.
If I had money, I'd
We'll
fix
hop in
that.
Jeff's truck and ride in the back.
Do it early. No, it's illegal to ride.
I would be
If you walk with Jeff, though, you have to stop at
That
the
was
spots.
depressing. I thought it was under 16.
Tell him, Tip.
You have to walk
Yeah.
what?
If you walk with
Number-
Jeff, you have
number
to
one
stop
was
and do
Johnstown.
squats.
Number two,
Like,
I thought
there's
that was
like
under
three.
16.
We do air squats when we walk.
Okay, so I'll try to schedule something with you guys, whoever wants to.
I'm gonna ask in a minute. I'm gonna ask the right guy in a minute.
Okay, so committees, there's been some issues with finance and safety and service fighting a lot? No, with the time commitment. Finance, it's really hard for finance to get everything done in one session a month, so that's why we went to 1.5, really. But it really puts the squeeze on safety and service. Safety and service always doesn't need the whole time, but there's other times that they need the whole time. So what does council recommend that we do with these two committees?
The alternating was nice when we did that, but that might not work at certain times.
I don't think we're gonna have any less time that's needed for either of those committees
Mhm.
or any other committees that just aren't meeting in the first place, right? So, or can't schedule meetings with, their corresponding, interests, right? So I think we gotta find a solution. And the hardest part of that solution is being respectful of staff's time to, added minutes and attendance into these meetings. So my biggest question is continue to be, is there a way around recording these meetings so that staff does not necessarily need to attend? Because we're offering from the committee side with that.
The committee, the staff is required to be at certain meetings.
They'd have to be at finance.
Yeah.
They have to be at finance, but other committees,
The
so
other
safety and
ones, I think,
service, are they
were
required to be there?
I
I
am.
think safety and service.
I'm required.
Yeah.
Well, I can back up the meeting time from 5 to 4 for finance,
That was
but
gonna be
that's
my
gonna
next question.
impact.
I can do it. I don't know what Jeff's, once a month. Could you
Who's
move
on
to
safety and
4:30?
service then? Jeff's also on that, isn't he?
Yes.
Yeah.
Jeff,
Yeah, this
I-
affects
I-
Jeff the most of anybody.
I can, just not right now because I'm in collective bargaining,
Okay.
which is on Tuesdays and Fridays.
No, that's fair.
And so I'm at the mercy.
I
Okay.
understand.
But after that, which it's only happens once every 3 years, I can work with the schedule to make 4.
What's the fuse on the CBA, if you don't mind me asking?
What's the what?
The fuse, what's your timeline to resolve that?
We're in arbitration come Friday.
Okay.
So it'll wrap up pretty quick.
Okay.
It's a July 1 to June 30, 3-year. So we should be able to wrap it up here soon.
So maybe July, we skip the 2 finance committee meetings and just do the 1, and then August, we can start with the 2.
But if, because you're part of both, right? If we run one here and one in there, and if you take the evaluation of what is on each agenda, right? Which one's the more important to go to?
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
Is that fair? Because
Because that-
Because if you have two, let's say there's an impactful
Puts
thing
him in
going
a
on with
tough
finance.
spot, though.
What's that?
That puts him in a tough spot, though.
But if you and I are having
If
that
he
conversation
misses-
to address something to council, it comes in one-to-one, then it comes to an issue that it dies in that committee then, right?
We
And then
can, we can
revisit.
assign people to committee at our,
We can have alternates.
Alternates,
You
there
can
you
have an
go.
alternate.
well, that's gonna be up to Jeff. Let's let him think about it.
So, yeah, let's see what August, if where he's at in August, it's maybe
It's not
starting
a-
at
it's
4:30
not
for
a-
finance.
It'll be over in the next couple of weeks.
Okay,
So we should be all right.
okay,
We can manage through another month.
okay. That's all I had. Does anybody else have anything for other business?
I think if we're mindful of our words, we can get through stuff real quick.
Big caveat.
Those hard stops.
Anybody else have anything for other business? Jeff, JYA? They have a tournament this
We
weekend.
talked about last time of bringing forward appropriate policy, I believe, to get that in place so that we could then earmark appropriations on their concrete driveway apron with no strings attached. And is that something that, I believe, Sean, you had mentioned that you needed to get that together. I know you got a lot on your plate, but
I
if
think
you
we
recall.
tasked Jack to look at the costs.
Yeah,
I think
that-
Jack said he could take a look at it, as far as what those costs would be.
I have their proposal, so,
From JYA, correct?
right.
Yeah, and I think the takeaway that I had was Jack was gonna go and assess it and see if those numbers jived with his experience and connections and.
Understood, and that's, if we're going to have a policy so that it helps guides us with these things, as Sean mentioned, I believe, we need to get that done parallel to having Jack review the estimate and take a look at the job site to say, yeah, it's appropriate.
I misunderstood your question. You're asking, is a request from any community organization something that we're willing to entertain without some compensation for the community or some balancing effect? Is that your question?
Were you here at that meeting last
I
time?
think so. But you said that no strings attached. But your question today is, are we comfortable just gifting money to an organization because they ask?
It's not I'm not raising that question. I think it's appropriate to give it to them. I believe it was the city manager suggested, before you do that, let me get a policy together to bring forward to council.
So I had suggested that you do a policy. I didn't know who was gonna write it. But.
Can
I
Dave
s-
do
I can
that?
see where the inferring would be me, but I should have clarified.
And I'm sorry to cut you
No,
off,
no,
Sean.
you're
is-
fine.
I'm okay with appropriating the money right now if there's 3 other people to support it right now. I believe there is, without calling out any individual.
I'm 100%. I just want to make sure we have all our Ts crossed and Is dotted before we do it.
Are you referring to the Ts and Is being the policy?
The policy, so that we don't get ourselves in some trouble.
Understood. I don't think there's any trouble. I think the concern that Sean brought up, legal trouble, I think the concern that the city manager brought up is that, yes, I understand we open up the entire crowd to come in. Oh, you gave it to them and not to us. And I mean, I have overwhelming, compelling argument to say of what they provide and how long they've provided it versus if you took, certain military organizations, those fraternal organizations serve themselves with a component of community service,
Can we get a policy written up?
as an example.
Dave, can you for the next meeting, so we can have something to move forward.
Yeah, there's probably somebody that has it on their shelf around our 270 that we could plop in there, because it does exist in many municipalities.
So if you could get that and get it to us. Okay. Anybody else with other business?
Is there other similar support? Because there's no sense having the finance director do some work if there's not enough support for it. Are you allowed to have a straw poll or a kind of?
If the tax update passes, I'm all for it.
It'd have to, I'm looking to try to do it before it.
That's the one thing that I think people are hesitant about, is that we're gonna give this money to an organization. How is that gonna impact the tax?
And I'll make no bones about it. I'm twisting arms. I understand that. I like to, but I understand. I'm just one person.
Yeah.
What's our annual budget in the city?
What's that? I'm sorry?
What's our annual budget?
3.5, 3.4.
3.5. So.
There's some, I believe there's some salary savings. It may be earmarked for some other things that the city manager's working with that doesn't necessarily need to reach our desks quite yet, but I believe that those things do exist.
I love the JYA, and again, I drive that ramp more often than just as often as Jeff and Wes and everyone else that attends there. I love it. I just, for the financial constraints that we're in, I would support it 10 ways from Sunday if we comfortably had the money and did not worry about the magnifying lens that would come from other angles. I love it, but.
Understood. Anybody else
He's
care
looking
to?
for other opinions, any other opinions across the table.
Because if there's not support for it, there's no sense having the man do the work. We got enough work.
Ryan, anything?
I mean, I don't mind it. I think it's a conversation you could have.
We're having the conversation. Not to put you on the spot, but to put you on the spot.
Yeah.
Tiffany?
I have to think about it.
Wes?
I mean, obviously, all of us are extremely supportive of that group.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody could say we're not. So, I mean, I want to help out
Supporting
that
words
group.
is one thing, support
Right, and I
financially
agree.
is something else, right? That's what it is. So
Right.
again, I'm twisting arms. I hear a maybe. There's three others that.
Are we comfortable cutting a check? Yes?
I don't have a problem with it.
That's what it comes down to, because again, I don't want to have Dave go do work that's, where it's not right now needed. Mary, you were committed to it?
I'm committed. I told you I needed to have it for the next meeting, so.
Okay. I got there's 2.5, we're still 1.5 short.
What's the outline of the policy? Let's give him some marching orders here, right? Is it a dollar amount? Is there a dollar amount limit? Is it a 501c3 requirement? What else can we give him for additional framework?
I think there are, Dave, correct me if I'm not wrong, I believe there's some cities that in the greater Central Ohio area that already have some existing policy, that probably all those things are taken into consideration, that he would take a look at our size city, maybe make some tweaks, but in the end, I'm sure that it's got to be a nonprofit organization, registered, that services the Johnstown community, to some very high level, not 50%, but so that it has a direct impact kind of thing. And in the end, it's our discretion to say yes or no. So if a military fraternal organization that's community service minded comes in here and asks for something, the policy would certainly allow them to do so. They certainly probably would be qualified, but in the end, we're the ones that are going to say yes or no. The policy is not going to dictate that we have to.
They're the ones willing to pay for our crosswalks downtown, right?
That's what they're there for. Their
They're willing to
service,
give us
their mission is service-minded community. That's what they're there for. It's not to collect from us. It's to provide service, to augment your community.
Either way, we're gonna need this proposal going forward anyway, so I think he works on it.
Well, there's a certain priority if there's support to move it along quickly. If there's not support for it, I'm sure the city manager and him would put it in an appropriate priority level.
You got me.
I hear that. I got 2.5. I'm looking at the end of the table and the guy with,
My challenge is that, is the apron their biggest need?
Well, it depends on how you they got a lot of needs. There's a lot of needs over there, drainage, all kinds of stuff. But
that's, if you recall, sorry to interrupt,
No,
Ryan.
you're
If
good.
you recall, when she came up here, I asked, and that's what, I asked her to come back with a list, and that's what she asked for. So I'm not going to question, right? So I hope that answers your question. I know there's other needs, but is that their biggest need or not? I'm not getting in their business.
Any other opinions?
For me, there's an impact because it's on, is Jersey a township road or a city road?
So,
Right there in front of Bell. I was asking, is that a city street or a township street right there in front of Jersey? And regardless of what the answer is, many of our residents drive by that with that gravel coming in there. So it's aesthetics as well as function.
Is that you said 14,000, right?
Something like that.
Ballpark.
Ballpark, call it
And
15.
And it's 100% ask.
100% ask.
Cool. I'm a fan. I would just like to do it within the framework of policy, I guess.
A fan in the sense to make it a priority from him that he gets it done before any kind of income tax initiative that you would support it, or you would have to wait for the income tax initiative to support it?
No, I wouldn't wait for it.
Okay, I'm at 3.5.
I think
I'm in favor of the policy.
No, I'm talking about the funding, Mr. Seeland. I'm talking about the
I
funding.
think we have them just start working on it. We'll see where we're at in 2 weeks. One thing I forgot to bring up from the finance committee, and I apologize. We made an agreement last week or 2 weeks ago that we would take to Frank Sia. Frank Sia, we made a vote that we would let the city manager into a contract based on these parameters. Frank Sia countered. Still the same fee, $2,500 monthly retainer. Length of agreement would be 6 months. He gave two different termination options, a 10-day notice, which is very unusual, and then a 30-day notice. If we go to the 10-day option and we cancel before October 1st, then we owe a recuperation fee of $5,000. If we do a 30-day notice and we cancel before October 1st, there's a $3,700 fee. Everybody on finance thought the 30-day notice was a more typical cancellation notice versus a 10-day. And the likelihood of us canceling between now and October 1st is not high. So finance recommended 3-0 that we go with option 2. So does anybody have questions or comments about this? I know Tiffany brought it up last time. So it's a 6-month contract, which is what we wanted. It's just changing the cancellation from 10 days to 30 days.
did he nail down anything else about as far as subscriptions we were gonna apply to and how all that works?
No.
I know he had listed some originally.
Not as requirements, as suggestions.
So what's his current price per month?
2,500.
25, okay, okay.
And he
I just don't wanna turn from 2,500 real fast.
No.
You get your trial period, you get a couple months in, and he rolls out another $1,000 in subscriptions.
No.
That's the only thing I wanna make sure we don't have.
No. And the first month, he's looking at 21, 27, 40, 46 hours of work the first month. So he's front loading it a lot, the amount of work he's got to do the first few months, where by the end, he's working 18 hours a month.
That makes sense, because he's got to build the system, and
Right,
then he's got to
gotta install it.
then he'll just be maintaining.
Yes.
So,
That's why he wanted a recuperation fee in there if we canceled right away, because he's putting a lot into the first few months.
yeah, no, and I understand the cancellation period. I think that's fine. I think Frank will do a good job. I just want to make sure that we're not going to inadvertently obligate ourselves to more than we realize.
Yep.
Yeah, and if we cancel in 30, we're gonna have to hook up with a new provider, and they're gonna have to download to each other. You know, he would have to download it
Or we
within those
don't.
30 anyway.
Yeah.
Or we say we're going to take rotation on Facebook.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what your other I don't know what your alternative is to hiring.
Me and
somebody
Tiffany are
from
gonna stand on a
PR.
corner with signs.
Yeah. The bulletin board on
Temporary is
62
legal.
can only do so much.
Okay, so I make a motion that we move forward with Frank Sia on option 2, which is $2,500 a month, 6 months, 30-day cancellation.
Second.
Mayor Barnard,
Yes.
Wes Cole,
Yes.
Dave Seeley,
Yes.
Bob Orsini.
Yes.
Jeff Barr,
Yes.
Ryan Green,
Yes.
Tiffany Hollis.
No, sorry.
No, you're fine. Okay, I have no other business.
I have
Oh.
something. I thought someone would have said it by now, so I guess I'll bring it up. I would like to thank everybody involved with not only the downtown Johnstown event there the other Saturday night, but also the farmer's market. I enjoyed both of them. I had a good time there and got some great lobster rolls and all that good stuff. So I hope has continued success going forward as well.
I'll also reiterate about the alumni banquet was the record attendance for the alumni banquet this year, so that was really exciting to see, because the numbers have been dwindling in the past, so it was exciting to see the whole weekend.
That was the last weekend, right?
Yep, same day as the Spring Fest.
Yep. Anybody else?
I got-
And the can-can.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
So I thought it was going to be on finance, but it kind of wasn't. So last meeting, we discussed the 3 options that were for the water plant. For some of you that were there. We probably need to have that on the highlight reel. I assumed we were going to have time in order to talk about it in finance committee meeting tonight. We have a CMAR agreement that has already passed its expiration. They have told us that they could extend that for a moment in time. However, I don't believe that moment in time has a long shelf life to it. So with that being said, Dave and I worked aggressively to try to prepare those numbers for tonight. I don't feel like this is the appropriate platform in which to present those. But I'm also concerned that waiting until our next meeting may be late, especially if July 2nd meeting doesn't materialize, in which I will also not be at. So it may make it complicated, but I know July 2nd, there's a lot of holiday vacation plans, so I'm not sure of council members' ability to attend. If you have a quorum, you do. If you don't, you don't. I don't know. What are your thoughts, Dave, on putting together a committee meeting at the very least? Potentially a council meeting.
Should it be a workshop?
Can
For all
be,
of us?
can be. I remember at the last council
We will
meeting.
need as many people there as we can, because it's going to be in-depth, and that way we don't have to explain it twice.
Yeah, your request at the last council meeting was to have all of council at the next piece of it. So like I said, there's really option 1 and option 2. But in order to make a decision on option 1 and option 2, we needed to work through the entire sewer plant expansion. So a mad dash was made at the final hour. I think we actually produced a spreadsheet. However, we have not had the opportunity to go back and check our work. And whenever you're talking about $80 million worth of debt, probably a good idea to get that verified. So we will continue to work through that. But
Do you think this is a workshop next week, or a workshop when you get back the week of the 8th?
I'm open to
Of July.
whatever you all, I would say next week. Dave's shaking his head.
Yeah?
I think next week at some point, probably not Monday.
Tuesday?
Tuesday, we do have,
Tuesday, we have zoning and design review, if we have something.
what's the agenda items up for that right now? You have a demo permit for planning and
I
zoning?
think it's important enough to
Well,
get it
design
in
review,
sooner
I believe,
than
is assigned
later.
here.
Yes. Review has to sign,
And planning and zoning, we have
demo.
Punch me now.
application for zoning amendment.
Is anybody available during the
Zoning is a
day?
demo,
Amendment.
is that what you said?
Oh, zoning?
Possibly.
The
Possibly?
PD, the
Oh.
PD piece, it's an application for the zoning amendment, different process under the PD district.
That should be easily obtained, right?
Right, there's not a amendment to the text, it is adding the annexed property to the sub-area, to the existing.
Oh, okay. So that's a
I'm just gonna keep laughing.
boilerplate procedural thing, really.
God, I would hope so, yeah.
You and me both, brother. So,
Not the process.
so those items could be quick. If you wanted to have it Tuesday, we could probably try to squeeze you in. I don't anticipate those applications.
I'm supposed to be on vacation next week. Tuesday's really not a good day.
Okay.
It's my anniversary, and
Well,
Yeah.
let's stay away from there.
I really can't afford another divorce.
It's getting lively towards the end of tonight. Wednesday?
You guys just make a date, and I'll try my hardest to be there.
What's the rest of council's convenience look like?
You don't want Tuesday at all.
I'd prefer not.
What if it was during the day?
That'd be better.
On Tuesday?
I mean, I'm all for Tuesday because I already have stuff, so Tuesday's fantastic.
During the day?
No, I don't, but I can just roll it all into one.
Yeah.
Tuesday during, I heard Tuesday during the
I heard
day.
Tuesday evening is not.
Tuesday during the
I can do Tuesday.
Tuesday. We got a lot of Tuesdays during the day.
During the day, what time during the day? Ooh, I like this.
8 a.m.
Tuesday day.
9 a.m.
7.
I really feel
Meet
like
in the
we're an
middle,
option.
8 a.m., 7, 8, 9, 8:30.
I wish I could act like an auction.
If it's gonna be during the day, it's gotta be after 10 for me.
Yeah,
So
I
I can at least
can't
get
go,
my
I
guys
can get
going,
Chillicothe on Tuesday,
leave, come back.
Tuesday's not good for you.
not during the day.
Okay.
Thursday,
During the day?
if you go during the day, it's gotta be hard stops, so I gotta schedule it.
Oh, I think, yeah, everybody's there, yeah.
I feel like it's something that you're very tuned into and stuff. I mean, like, Thursday I couldn't do it till the afternoon, but if I wasn't there and Bob's there, I'm more comfortable.
I was thinking the opposite.
Okay, Teresa, why don't you send an email out tomorrow about what days we are available, so we can all respond on.
Did you say what about Wednesday? The
Wednesday?
26th?
I cannot, I'm in collective bargaining.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, you're out.
And Friday.
And Tuesday was good for everyone except for Bob.
Morning's no good.
I mean, if it's Zoomed,
What about
I can Zoom it.
afternoon?
Is that helpful?
You said
For
morning.
a while, I gotta drive, I mean, it's just,
You could listen in, couldn't you?
I.
On your drive?
Comfortable with the
Is your
information I think we're
objective,
gonna
Sean,
discuss.
is your objective just to like download information to them or give them the chance to deliberate?
Well, if it's
Thursday, I'll
deliberated,
have
it's gonna be a council
maybe
meeting.
there,
If it's
but-
download information to them, I can get away with the work session there, I believe.
If it's download information and council is not discussing among yourselves, do a webinar, don't allow them to speak to each other on it, and just present.
There you go.
Okay.
I like that.
Or you can show up here, so.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right, and then we will need some type of action though, probably quickly after that. So. The CMAR is gonna be the CMAR. I mean, they work at our leisure, and I'm not trying to be adversarial with them, but, and I appreciate their patience, but ultimately, it's not chump change that we're delivering to them either. So for you wanting to collectively look at the numbers before you stroke a check for $80 million, I would advise that you feel comfortable with it. So now this is just a water plant. We're looking between the 22.8 and the 35.8. And I'll be honest, if you all want to meet on Tuesday, Bob, I can get with you on a different date to download you on it. I'm okay with that too.
Okay, just set the time.
Okay. Teresa will get time-wise.
What date did you say?
Tuesday.
8:30?
Other calendar.
Let's get this done right now so we all know walking out of here.
25th.
Ryan said after 10, so he can get his crew.
Yeah.
I have an engineering meeting at 10, and it usually lasts
11?
until, I could kick him out at 11:30.
How long
I
do
mean,
you
that's
thi-
not a hard 10 either, like. I
How
mean,
long do you
I
think
just
it'll
need
take, Sean?
time in the morning to get them ready. That's it.
I think honestly, once we get all the information, it's just gonna be, it's gonna be relatively easy, because the numbers speak for themselves.
An hour?
Either you have the money
2
or you
hours?
don't.
Hour, 2 hours?
I'd say an hour,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, we don't get
Yeah,
to
not
talk,
2
so it'll be much shorter.
Yeah. I would just say be direct and to the point in this meeting. And be less verbose.
It's a one, like Bob said, it's a one-way conversation. It'll be very short.
If Wes didn't talk so much. Okay,
I can take 20 words and put it into 2.
okay.
Are we scheduling this as a special council meeting? Or,
Well, they do need to take action on this email.
well, if they do, then I,
Just do it as
You
a
guys
special-
figure it out and just send it to us.
Yeah, we'll do it as a special council meeting, because you may need to take
morning
action.
was bad. Tuesday morning. What about Tuesday?
No, I think they said 11:30.
Yeah,
Tuesday,
10
11:30 in the
10.
morning.
Can't go at 11:30.
Sean can't go at 10 because he's got the,
Tuesday's bad.
Best case
I'm
scenario,
sorry.
2 o'clock, back in town.
I'm good
Yes.
with 2.
Do you want to
2
do 2
o'clock
o'clock?
Tuesday?
We have
Best case scenario.
we have a 4, right? On Tuesday, the 25th, we have a 4.
before what?
Anniversary?
4
for
PM.
No, that's, no.
4 for 9 or 4 for 18?
Or is that you and I have a 4?
Yes.
I was like, we have design review board and planning and zoning.
We have a
It's your
4.
anniversary.
Yeah, I can do 2 o'clock.
Is that your anniversary?
Yeah, it's fine.
You're good with 2?
Yeah, I'm good with 2.
Do 2 and then,
Yeah. I think it'll be
okay.
great.
Tuesday at 2.
all right.
Beautiful. And it will be a council meeting.
Trying to get myself
So
time
We
to
could
prepare for
potentially
that.
take
It's
action.
facilitated.
Yes.
Which I don't think we're going to.
Canceling.
Yeah.
I got us there somehow.
Okay.
Tuesday.
Okay. Anybody else with other business? Okay, at the request of the requester, the executive session to consider the employment of public employee is going to be moved to the next council session,
Which will be when?
whenever we have the next one.
I'm just letting you know, I won't be here July
We don't need
2nd.
you, we're talking about you, not with you.
Even better.
Um,
Cussed and discussed.
So I make a motion that we move to executive session to consider confidential business information of an applicant for economic development assistance with council and the city manager to last under 15 minutes,
Hard stop.
with no business to
10:15.
follow.
You're putting pressure
You
on me.
need a second?
Yes.
Second the motion.
Great.
You want
Gotta do a roll
finance
call.
director, right?
Yeah, if he's got information for us, yeah.
So city manager, council, finance director?
Yeah.
Yes.
They said 15 minutes.
Start the timer.
Okay.
Bold. 10:15.
Mayor
Yep.
Barnard?
Yes.
Wes Coble?
Yes.
Dave Seeland?
Yes.
Bob Orsini?
Yes.
Jeff Barr?
Affirm.
Ryan Green?
Yes.
Tiffany Hollis?
Yes.
Okay, we're requesting all you people who are here leave quick.
Except for Dave and me.
Run, don't walk.
Good night.
Thanks for
I
coming.
was gonna say, I can see Dave over there evaluating some things.
I have a question.
Dude, stop talking.
Why does the children
Stop talking.
after, okay.